Good Friday evening, everyone. It's David Schlotthauer here with a detailed update here on the latest on Tropical Storm Melissa for October 24th on this Friday, 2025. Melissa has dealt with a little bit of shear from time to time and appears to be a little bit of drier air that is trying to get in the way of the formative stages of a inner eye structure that is trying to get well established. But each time it does collapse a little bit, and there is certainly some tilt with the vortex still ongoing, but the tilt is decreasing very gradually at a very slow rate. But once that vortex becomes more better aligned, we will see an explosive rate of intensification. It's just a matter of when will that occur. We don't know exactly when that will occur. And so when we take a look here at the zoomed out view on the true color visible satellite imagery, keep an eye on these feathery white cirrus clouds. They are moving in from the west towards the east over the system. Not as significant as yesterday, but there is still a little bit of vertical wind shear that is keeping this vortex tilted. And even some of that vertical wind shear also coming in out of the northwesterly direction, helping to tilt the vortex out towards the southeast. I'll show you that here from the P3 tail Doppler radar mission in just a second. But when we take a look at the other spectacle here at a closer zoomed in view on the infrared satellite imagery, I'll tell you what, Tropical Storm Melissa is is fighting very hard for its life tonight with that vertical wind shear. And you can see some explosive thunderstorm activity still ongoing just to the east of the center, the area of low pressure, and maybe even to the southeast of where the center actually is. And the center is roughly located right over here. So we are seeing an offset still ongoing. We briefly did have parts of the vortex that did align briefly this afternoon, which caused a sudden increase in organization of the system. But we're back to that little bit of a lopsided look, all thanks to a little bit of westerly vertical wind shear of about 10 to 15 knots over the system. But that shear is forecasted to abate over the next few days. And once that occurs, the system will take full advantage of the background environment. We also we're seeing a lot of lightning activity in the system, a signature for intense, vigorous convection that the system is fighting for right now. We can see this is from windy.com, and as we zoom in here, there is a lot of lightning strike activity from the satellite-based network, picking up a crap ton of lightning strikes here of over 500 lightning strikes per 15 minutes, which indicates we have a very vigorous, intense mid-level vortex that is definitely in place here. And this is, again, not attached to the low-level vortex yet. There is a tilt with height with this, because if there wasn't, then we would be dealing with a much stronger system right now. But there was some strengthening that did occur pretty quickly earlier. Now, these cloud tops here are very, very cold, negative 130 degrees Fahrenheit, which is exceptional. That is about negative 90 to negative 95 degrees Celsius. That is in the echelon of extremely vigorous, violent updrafts that are throwing a lot of the ice crystals up there into the higher parts of the storm, and that's how we get all this lightning. So this is an extremely, extremely intense mid-level vortex that is in place right now. And it's a matter of, will we see the low-level center relocate a little bit closer to this, or will the mid-level center try to come all the way around into over this low-level center, for which it will be able to intensify? This is kind of on a knife's edge on which scenario plays out here. But once one of these align, we will see much faster rate of strengthening, which should begin relatively soon rather than later. So here's a look at the latest Recon Air Force mission. There is a plane that is currently flying through the system right now, doing a couple of fixes for us to better give us a structure, a better analysis of the current structure of Melissa and how strong it currently is. And over their last couple of fixes, so they came in on the northeastern side here first, and then they exited out on the southwestern quadrant. Then they came around again for their southeastern inbound encounter through the center. And each of the fixes, the pressure has remained steady, so we have not seen any more falling pressures that we saw today. We saw a pretty big drop in pressure, about 10 millibars between this morning's recon mission and just the new mission that just got in there just about an hour and a half ago. So since then, the pressure has remained at steady state, but we expect that intensity to resume, or intensification to resume overnight tonight once Dmax gets kicking and this mid-level vortex is be able to better align. And in order for that vortex to better align, we will more likely need to have more intense sustained convection to either yank the surface low underneath that deeper area of convection, or for the mid-level vortex to wrap all the way around. This is, again, making things a little bit uncertain and a little bit challenging, but this is quite normal. Once a system recovers from very strong vertical wind shear that we have been dealing with over Melissa, the system is trying to recover from that vertical wind shear that it is still encountering a little bit this evening, but that shear is coming down a little bit. Now, we don't only have an intensity estimate here based on the recon, but I can see them keeping it at about 65 miles an hour, and that's because, again, we have not had an increase in intensity with the system. We had some very strong winds earlier with the morning's mission, but those winds have come down on the eastern side a little bit because, again, the vortex is trying to reset itself a little bit, but we're still getting some very strong winds down here in the southeastern side of the system, well removed from the center, where those winds are around 40 knots or so, or about 50 to about 60 miles an hour at the moment. So I don't see them upping the intensity in the next advisory just because of what we're seeing. But one could even argue that this may be a little stronger. This is from the advanced over technique, which uses satellite-based algorithms to estimate the state of how strong the system actually is, and to give us a fairly accurate estimated central pressure. This is not as accurate as Recon traditional data, but it does its purpose as good as it's useful. And what we have right now is pressures that are, again, about 990, 995 millibars, and winds that are around 55 to almost 60 knots. And right now it is showing a uniform in the CDO structure, which is not a surprise given that we are seeing that tonight, which is usually a harbinger to facilitate a bout rate of intensification shortly thereafter. We also had another plane that flew through the system and is currently doing so still. This is the NOAA Tail Doppler radar mission from the P-3 Orion aircraft, which is very useful at actually giving us this data on the current structure and intensity of Melissa. And I want you to really pay attention to different layers of the atmosphere here, because we're going to show you a few different slices of what the wind is doing at different levels of the in the atmosphere. So this is at around a half a kilometer above the surface. So this is roughly about 2,000 feet or so, maybe a little lower than that. We can see that, of course, yep, we have these very strong winds on the northern side at, again, around 48 to almost 50 knots right now. That's why the NHC is holding at 65 miles an hour. But we have loose wind here down to the south, which is, again, allowing this vortex to not really align very well. And we're still seeing a little bit of wiggle woggles in our exact center right now. But when we go a little bit higher up into the atmosphere, because this gives us different layers, I want you to pay attention to something here. This is where the low-level center is. But if we go higher and higher up, really above the 3-kilometer layer, because that's where the vertical wind shear actually is. So if we go all the way up to 6 kilometers, we can see here from just 3 kilometers above the surface, which is at around, say, 7,000 or 8,000 feet above the surface. Actually, that I would have to figure it out. It's like almost 10,000 feet. Here's, again, that circulation. But when we go higher and higher and higher up, actually, this is 3 kilometers. So, yeah, that's about 5,000 or 6,000 feet. This is at around, say, about 20-ish thousand feet. And we can see that the vortex here is misaligned. You can see where the mid-level spin here is. And this is where our low level circulation actually is. So you can see these are displaced. They are not aligned vertically enough to facilitate pressure falls. Pressure falls means stronger winds, and stronger winds means the system is intensifying. In theory, that's the definition of strengthening. And so right now, just how much is there a tilt to this vortex? Well, it is tilted at around 50, maybe a little more than 50 kilometers, which is quite significant here. So this is really, I think the intensification will be rather gradual. We may be seeing a few spikes here and there of quicker strengthening, but really not locking in on a full 2 days of explosive intensification yet. This is not ideal yet. However, though, once the vertical wind shear does slacken off enough, this mid-level spin right here might actually do a little dance around our low-level spin here. And this is very common. Once vertical wind shear decreases, we could actually see this recess around the low level center, and it does take about roughly 12 hours. This is not an exceptionally big tilt where we have the mid-level vortex over here and where we have the low level. So it's not super significant, but it is significant enough that it might take about 12 hours or so before the system fully aligns enough to where rapid intensification then can resume. We had a little bit of that today, but that has since taken a little bit of a pause. Now, we could also see with what the radar is picking up on from the tail Doppler radar, and this is really important because what it does appear here is there is a little bit of a low-level eye-like future that is showing up in the tail Doppler radar mission. You can see some very high, fairly robust echoes being picked up from that airplane as they flew through the system. But if we go higher up, that doesn't extend very high. And so what we end up with at 6 kilometers above the surface, we don't have an eye wall. So this is mainly in the lower levels of the atmosphere. And until we get the eye wall into the mid and upper parts of the atmosphere, the system is not really poised to undergo explosive intensification. However, its structure does suggest that, though, that this could happen relatively quickly with the vortex aligning. And once that occurs, of course, we will see a big bout of intensification. Now, here's a lot of disagreement tonight, again, because of what we just witnessed right now. We were thinking that the vortex is going to get better aligned with that explosion that we had earlier, but maybe some dry air that I told you all about yesterday might have gotten into the system and disrupted it a little bit. And on top of a little bit of vertical wind shear, it just makes matters a little bit more difficult for the system to try to recover. And so it is going to be very important to see how much strengthening can actually occur. I feel like the models are a little bit overboard in its 18Z model suite. We'll have to wait for the next runs to come in. I am awfully tired tonight, and I have work very early in the morning, so I'm probably not going to stay up for the 0Z model guidance tonight, unfortunately. That's just how it works sometimes when I'm busy keeping you all updated here. Every single day, been very stressed about the system quite a bit, and it has actually allowed me to not get any sleep at all because of how catastrophic this system is. So when we take a look here at the H-Wharf model, this is one in several hurricane models that we'll be looking at, and you can see that the system does not strengthen a whole lot, and it's been consistent in this scenario for a while that the system only becomes a Category 2 hurricane on approach to basically eastern Jamaica into Kingston. This would be still a catastrophic situation for the island because of very heavy rainfall that we will be looking at here on other models. But then as this, and it really just sits here over Jamaica for at least almost a day before it finally makes a turn back to the northeast into eastern Cuba, as you can see here. But the system, again, does not get very, very significant at all. Doesn't reach major hurricane intensity on this model at all, as it even makes its way over the southeast or Bahamas into the Turks and Caicos Islands. But we have to understand that the system is trying to recover right now, and it is going to take some time for that to happen. And when that happens, we just don't know. But I think it's going to happen very soon rather than later. And once that bout of rapid intensification gets going, I think it's going to not stop for a little while, for probably a few days or so. So looking at the HMON model, we can see what the system is doing here. Also, again, the system is initialized quite well. So we know where the system pretty much is at this point. Whether or not does it get stronger. And on this model, it does get stronger than what the HWRF shows here and brings it to a category 3, even a category 4 hurricane as it approaches the eastern tip here of Jamaica and impacts Kingston, which is over here. So you get offshore flow here over Kingston with the storm surge threat not as significant in a situation like this. But now, if the system rides a coast like this, what we call a Jamaican rider, this could really complicate things a lot here. And the mountains could do some weird things with the vortex. Sometimes it could actually jump the vortex a little north of the island, and sometimes it could actually wiggle further south here. So interesting to see that. But also, this is going to matter a lot for the storm surge threat and actually rainfall impacts as well, because as you know, if you get winds that come out of the northerly direction, you're going to actually not get you're going to get rain, but it's not going to be as heavy as the northern coasts here of Jamaica because, well, I will explain that in a Google map here or on Google Earth on the topography of Jamaica here in a little bit on what that means for heavy rainfall. But just so you know, in this situation, the rainfall actually at first might not be all that significant over Kingston because of the downsloping flow. The air dries and warms. And then once that onshore flow picks up, then the big time rainfall gets into the southern coast of Jamaica here as it makes its crossing. Now, this is one of those models that are not very aggressive, more than likely due to the current state of the system. But if we look at the Halves B model, this has been very consistently aggressive over the last several model runs and continues to do so this time around. So we can see here on the Halves A, which is a one in another Halves run that we'll be looking at. This shows the system more than likely realistic than what we're actually seeing than actually with what the other models are showing right now. So we can probably put a little bit more weight into this right now at the moment, given the fact, if we look at this patch of wind right here, you can see how strong it is. We actually go back and look at our recon aircraft. We can see the same patch of wind here to the north of the system where the circulation is. And it's roughly, I wish this is latitude and longitude, but it's not, it's distance. But just a general idea, we have this patch of strong winds, and it does appear the Halves A initialize that really well. So that makes things a little more helpful for us here in terms of the future fate of how strong this system is going to get. And so by Saturday morning, the system does become a hurricane. It could happen sooner than what this model is showing, especially if the vortex briefly becomes better aligned tonight and then becomes misaligned a little bit. We can see brief boosts to the intensity just overnight, and they would be short-lived temporarily before a more permanent threat or increase in intensification rate continues. But this is showing us that the system has a 973 millibar, still a hurricane, and it's like, well, it's not that strong as it gets closer and closer to Jamaica. But this is when the system really intensifies very, very quickly, especially Saturday afternoon into the Saturday evening timeframe. This gets pretty strong here on the 18Z forecast where it is south of Jamaica. That's a big key player here is if it's south of Jamaica, this would be the worst case scenario for Jamaica because watch what happens here. So the pressure here is 944. Winds are about 130 knots or so. So this would be a high-end level category 4 and then becomes a category 5 hurricane explicitly here on the Halves A in 60 hours. This because of the NHC forecasting such a high intensity system, we're leaning over to the Halves A and the Halves B models tonight, unfortunately, which means Jamaica is still going to likely get catastrophic impacts, perhaps. And you can see how strong this gets here right before it makes landfall, man. This is very, very strong, a 916 millibar system. Not as strong as the last run earlier, but keep in mind this is an intermediate run, so we can see just from run to run, we have a smaller wind field here, not as spread out versus the last run where it was more broader, maybe with an annual replacement cycle. And then the last run, it was more compact. So we're going back and forth between a broader hurricane and a more compacted nature type storm. But regardless of this, very strong orographic flow here over Jamaica. This is going to exacerbate the flooding threat pretty substantially in such a way that I would not be surprised if some of the highest terrain here of Jamaica gets over 60 inches of rainfall. 60 inches of rainfall in about 5 to 6 days, or even in the next 7 days, which would be catastrophic on all levels and perhaps unsurvivable for some locations like Kingston. And again, I will show you this on Google Earth here in just a little bit on the topography here of Jamaica. But this makes landfall, and this is very, very strong by all means. This is a 919 millibar. This is a category 4 or even a category 5 at landfall over Western Jamaica. And this emerges off of Jamaica as still a very powerful category 3 or 4 hurricane as it makes its crossing into Cuba, but then gradually spins down because of that disruption with Jamaica, and then might intensify a little bit more thereafter. We'll have to wait to see how that pans out after the two land interactions. But yes, anyone in Eastern Cuba as well as the Bahamas definitely need to be watching this. Significant impacts to life and property are expected, along to go with some heavy rainfall and some flooding. Now let's take a look here at the Halves B model, because this is the other halves, right? It's kind of it's a little bit of a side note joke here that there's the Halves A, so half of the A, and then the other half is the B. Halves A, halves B, if you say it right, and it kind of sounds like I'm saying half A, half B. But either way, we can see that the system here takes a little longer to consolidate, but it does so in a hurry here. So by Saturday morning, we do have a hurricane, and this gets pretty darn strong, actually. Not as strong as the Halves A, but still pretty strong here with the pressure down in 940 millibars. Okay, we are still seeing a little bit of correction here in our future modeling on our hurricane models right now, because again, the vortex just recently became better aligned, and this was initialized at 18Z, which is about 11 o'clock this morning before the vortex was able to get fully established. So therefore, tonight's 0Z model runs will be pretty telling whether or not will this actually become a category 5 on top of Jamaica or close to Jamaica. But this model too has a very similar scenario here, showing a direct landfall over Kingston in Jamaica. This would be absolutely unprecedented. This would be catastrophic. This would be potentially unsurvivable, because you are getting some significant winds that are onshore here, and there is the Bay of Kingston here as well. So all this water is going to pile up potentially, and in this scenario, storm surge of 10 to 15 feet cannot be ruled out, on top of rainfall that could exceed 2 or 3 feet. So this is a flood masterpiece that is being thrown right into direct Jamaica's head right now. I feel really bad. I really, really pray that you all are heeding advices by your local officials and local authorities. And if you are told to evacuate, this is the time to do so immediately, because again, this looks to be catastrophic for all reasons. And I don't like to sniff out the word here, but potentially historic as well, since Gilbert. And it's been a while since Gilbert has hit Jamaica. So this would be close to being historic if the rainfall totals verify as what they are. But as we go forward here on the Halves B, the system weakens a little bit because of that land interaction, and then the system does try to regroup a little bit more as it continues to move off to the northeast, off and across pretty much the Bahamas. Before we get to the rest of our intensity guidance, let's talk about the topography here. I'm very good at this stuff when it comes to orographic lift because, of course, I live in California and we have tall coastal mountains here. So when we get our atmospheric rivers, this relates pretty darn well. for any mountainous terrain here in Jamaica. So I'm going to load Google Earth here and show you all the topography means a lot for this system right now for how much rainfall you actually get. Okay, so for an example, let's just kind of zoom in here. So here's Kingston on Google Earth. Let me make sure I'm using full screen. There we go. So here's Kingston. Here are the tall mountains, and this is Blue Mountain Peak here, and this is 7,000 feet. So this is not very, these are not hills. These are tall mountainous areas in the tropics. This is very tropical, like a rainforest here. And so as we kind of do this in a 3D dimensional way, you could imagine the upslope flow here, similar to what California gets during atmospheric rivers, but only this is on a much more extreme version of that. So when we get upslope flow here, that what Tropical Storm Melissa will be producing once it becomes a major hurricane, this flow has nowhere to go but up, because while wind cannot flow through through land, right? It's got to go through canyons or on top of these mountains. And as they do so, they squeeze out a lot of moisture here. This is what we call orographic forcing that really exacerbates and magnifies the flood threat here, because you're squeezing out a lot more moisture. Not only you're getting lift in the atmosphere because of the approaching hurricane at this point, but you're getting added forcing over the mountainous terrain here of Jamaica. And so what that's going to do here is it's going to lead to exceptional, unprecedented type rainfall rates. Excuse me. Sorry, folks. That's going to lead to unprecedented rainfall rates, possibly exceeding 4 inches an hour. In some extreme cases here, I would not be surprised if we get isolated rainfall rates that max out here along the windward sides where the upslope flow comes up and down like this. You could have some significant catastrophic flooding along the western slopes here. Or wait, no, southern slopes. That is, I'm used to thinking of the Sierra here. So these southern slopes here could get decimated by flooding. And, well, water has to go somewhere, right? So, well, when you get excessive runoff, well, the water wants to go kind of pour down into these canyons here. So we are looking at rapid rises on rivers because of the amount of rainfall that is expected. Here's one big river. And unfortunately, this could flood big time. And, well, look what we have. We have houses nearby. Okay, we have these houses that live close to this kind of washout area. It looks like, not really, it looks like a river, a creek, something like that, or a washout. But there's going to be some flooding here even, or a lot of flooding. And this is goes all the way down. And this is populated. There's a lot of houses along this. And let's look at Kingston here, because there's also some creeks and some other estuaries that can flood here as well. Remember, water has to go somewhere. If there's too much water and the ground cannot absorb any more runoff, the runoff is excessive and it collects into these creeks and streams. And that's when you get rapid rises in these areas. So if you live anywhere close to any rivers or any creeks or any washouts, excuse me, let me rewind my words there. So if you live anywhere close to rivers, streams, creeks, that sort of thing, you're going to need to be on the huge lookout for flooding and catastrophic flooding, perhaps. I mean, look at here. Not there, actually. Yeah, but there's some estuaries there. And then, of course, over here, this could flood because you get storm surges as well. That's something to take into consideration here in Jamaica. And this is really populated. There are a lot of cameras that we will be looking at here from a YouTuber known as C Jamaica. Go check out his channel after this live stream. It's called C Jamaica on YouTube. And he has a lot of cameras throughout Kingston, and some of them are looking at the ocean. Some of them are looking at some rivers and creeks that we will be providing so we can get a live analysis on if there's going to be flooding or not in real time as it's occurring. And I will be providing that in a live stream coverage on the system, probably on Sunday or Monday as this gets closer. But just so you know, the topography here is that very heavy rainfall anytime you get this upslope flow. Now, a lot of you are probably asking, well, I live on the southern shore of Jamaica, like Port Antonio, all right, Fruitful, Vale, as well as other little towns here and villages. So the thing about orographic effects, it's magnified on one side of the mountain where the wind is blowing from. Okay, so when the wind blows from the south, in this case, the western slopes are, I keep on saying western slopes, southern slopes, excuse me there, southern slopes of these mountains in Jamaica are favored, while the northern slopes here are not favored very much because now the air is sinking, right? What does air like to do when it sinks? It likes to warm and dry adiabatically. So your rainfall totals actually will be dependent on exactly where the center moves through. So for an example, let's zoom out here and look at Jamaica again for you all that are watching this. So if we get a center that does something like this, kind of hugs the coast, or kind of called Jamaica coast surfing, and then moves on shore kind of like this, you're going to get a lot of inflow, a lot of southerly flow hitting these mountains. So orographic effects will be worsened over Kingston, over much of the western half here, or southern half of Jamaica, including the southern half there of the eastern portion of Jamaica, versus the northern half. Yeah, you're going to see a lot of rainfall, but it might not be 40 or 60 inches. It might be more like maybe 1 or 2 feet of rainfall instead, because at the beginning of the system, you're going to get flow doing this. So then the northern sides of the island are favored most for heavy rainfall, while, well, the southern sides are not. But it's once that system gets closer and the flow changes is when different areas get favored differently. Unless the system moves like what some of the other models are showing, then it's basically, well, both sides of the mountains are favored here. And this is what is the biggest concern for the worst case scenario of flooding. And even a system turning like this over near Savannah Lamar, as well as into central Jamaica here. I mean, either way you put it, this is a devastating situation. We are looking at catastrophic flooding. Either way you put it, regardless of intensity here, and this is one of those instances at this point, I'm not really focused on intensity. I'm really focused just on how much flooding there is actually going to be that this system produces, all right? This is one of those rare events that this is a very big rain maker and also a wind producer, but the wind is more isolated, right? And, for an example, if we actually look at this on the Halves B, take note here, the tropical storm force winds, well, really hurricane force winds, that's where you get your most damaging winds. Look how localized this actually is. But if we look at the rainfall simulated reflectivity forecast, yeah, look at that. This is a much bigger area that gets heavy rainfall. And so as this gets closer, this really, really moves slow. And actually, if we look at the Halves A model, the worst case scenario potentially that could still manifest itself, we can see right here, I mean, this is moving slow. There is going to be rain that does not stop. And orographic here does not look to be appearing on this map, but I can expect some extreme ascent over those windward sides where the upslope flow is, and that is going to squeeze out a big amount of rainfall. Now, there has not been a whole lot of talk about this, and I'm sorry, I should be talking a little more about this, but there's also the potential for tornadoes and waterspouts. So tornadoes are mesoscale features that are like hurricanes, but on a much smaller scale. And so any of these storms here on the eastern side, that right front quadrant side of Hurricane Melissa, there's your eye wall. there could be strong tornadoes, and these could spin up very quickly and unexpectedly. So, Kingston, there is a risk for tornadoes and water spouts for your area, including for the far eastern tip here as well for Jamaica. Now, of course, on the northern sides, you typically don't because there is a little bit more stability because, of course, you get flow out of the north. The air likes to sink in the northern hemisphere, typically when you get northerly flow, just a little bit. And that really kind of suppresses a lot of the convection because you're not really advecting a whole lot of moisture, just kind of spinning it around. So instead, this side typically with hurricanes are favored most for tornadoes and water spouts. And some of these, again, could be strong and could cause more extreme destruction than what the hurricane can produce in itself. So keep that in mind. This has certainly a big weapon with it, and that weapon is tornadoes and maybe some shallow supercells that are produced. So now that we talked about that here, we'll get to the flood threat here more in the NHC advisory package because we're waiting for that to come in at around 8 o'clock my time or 11 o'clock Eastern time. But the intensity guidance has been nudged upward in the cycle from the previous one, and pretty much all of the reliable hurricane models, except just a few, indicate that this is going to become a high-end Category 4 hurricane, possibly even a Category 5. And because the National Hurricane Center has mentioned a Category 5 in their discussion, I am not too entirely surprised that this does make a run at a Category 5 hurricane. So therefore, my intensity forecast has been nudged upward in that favor, but I'm not as high yet as the National Hurricane Centers, and I'm still predicting this to being a Category 4 with winds of around 145 to 150 miles an hour at the maximum peak, which is, again, just below the National Hurricane Center's intensity of 155 miles an hour. Now, when we take a look here, before we get to the rest of the track guidance forecast, I want to kind of skip forward here and look at this because this is really important, and I want to zoom in. Now, it is important to note here that the 155 mile an hour maximum here occurs between here and here, okay? So I want to let me turn this off and really highlight this area in red. Red is a needed color at this point. So I'm going to highlight this for you all that you can see. So this whole red area has winds of 155 miles an hour from the National Hurricane Center, according to its forecast points. And some of you might say, oh, that's all it's going to get. Is it going to get stronger, David? In theory, it can get stronger because the NHC, with their point forecast, illustrates that, okay, at this exact location, it's going to be 155. At this exact location, it's going to be 155, and then here it's going to be about 140 at landfall. So anything pretty much just off the coast of Jamaica in this general vicinity, this box that I have in red here illustrates that this could make a run for a Category 5. Even so, the National Hurricane Center is not explicitly showing it in their intensity forecast, okay? Because again, it's all based on forecast points that they have out. But I do see this potentially becoming a Cat 5. I'm just not really confident in that forecast just yet, but there's that distinct possibility that Melissa does become one of the strongest hurricanes that Jamaica has ever had to deal with since Gilbert. So now, taking a look here at the track guidance forecast, we have had the continuation of a narrowing forecast, but still there is that realm of possibility. And still we're seeing some outliers here on the modeling, the deterministic and some of our hurricane models. And we can see there is the furthest most westerly outlier still putting this into western Jamaica versus the GFS still an easterly outlier here, taking this just off the coast of eastern Jamaica. So we still have a decent spread here, but it is a lot narrower than what we were dealing with yesterday. So anyone pretty much at this point, it is safe to say anyone in Jamaica needs to be prepared for catastrophic impacts from wind to water, as well as maybe tornadoes and severe weather along as this system could generate. And then, of course, when it gets into eastern Cuba, this will be very intense. And it looks like we're pretty locked in at this point that eastern Cuba could get a direct strike from Hurricane Melissa with winds that are around 130 to 140 miles an hour, which would make this a Category 4 still. And then this moves out into the Atlantic, possibly threatening Bermuda. So now there have been some questions about, oh, is this going to impact me in the Northeast? It is still too soon to tell, and we need to get through one thing at a time with Melissa. And the first hurdle right now is to get this out of the Caribbean in the next 5 days. And then once it departs the Caribbean, we will know a little bit better who's going to possibly get next impacted once this gets past the Turks and Caicos Islands. This is what we can see from the Google DeepMind AI forecast, which has done a very great job at handling this system, and that is why I am showing it in tonight's live stream. We can see that the system is currently here. Just a great reminder, this could shuffle around in the short term. So some of you might think, oh, looks like it jumped a little bit northeastward or it jumped a little bit southward. We are not done seeing a little bit of wobbles in the exact center of the system right now. It is still becoming better aligned. The system is just beginning to recover from the vertical wind shear that plagued the system this morning and yesterday. So therefore, until that mid-level vortex can fully stack on the low-level vortex, we're probably going to see recesses of this low-level center kind of wobbling around a common center where we see something that looks kind of like this. It kind of orbits around the primary solar relative rotation, which would be in theory right here. So we could still see some erratic storm motions in the short term. But once the system has a well-stacked vortex, then we'll be able to track this more smoothly, and we should get much better confidence once that occurs from most of our modeling. But right now, there is still some outliers still into far western Jamaica, so keep that in mind. And my pin keeps on acting up on me. Yeah, why is it acting up? That's kind of interesting. But some of the members here are very, very, very strong. In fact, so strong that we could be, some of the members are still bringing this down into the sub 900s in far western Jamaica. Then the weaker members are to the east of Jamaica. All right. And that's because a little bit of vertical wind shear that would stay over the system a little longer, preventing a better bout of rapid intensification. So we'll keep an eye on that. But right in here somewhere, it's not really indicated on the Google DeepMind AI model because it takes a lot of members to bring that confidence high. But this is showing a maximum intensity right in here. Let's actually back it out right here of 130 knots. So that is very shy. 131 knots. If we go back even a little more. This is the ensemble mean. I want to make sure I got that right. Yes, this is the ensemble mean of 131 knots. So very close to Category 5 hurricane intensity on this particular plot from the DeepMind AI forecast, which is pretty aggressive. You can see it clearly here, about 131 to 135 knots. It wouldn't really matter on how strong this exactly gets. A 155 mile an hour storm between a 160 mile an hour storm wouldn't make all the difference because the impacts like the heavy rainfall will matter more than just the exact intensity of the system, as rainfall will be the biggest issue yet with Melissa. But we can see generally where the system is going to be headed here on the on the Google DeepMind AI. And then there's a lot of spread here, okay, with the system. And I've seen people already make comments that, is this going to threaten the Northeast? Is this going to threaten Maine? I am not going to give you the answer on that. And that is because we have a big spread in the ensemble this far out, okay? In fact, if we fast forward this, this is a 7-day forecast, all right? Yes, the system is going to accelerate northeastward once it gets on that northeastward heading But that doesn't mean that, oh, we can rely on a 7-day forecast and assume that, oh, this Western group of ensembles are going to win the battle, and this gets extremely close to Massachusetts. All right. And so I wanted to make that very clear that we don't know yet exactly if this is going to get extremely close to the Northeast, Nova Scotia, or basically in across Newfoundland and the Labrador area of Canada. All right. That's why I have not been talking about it in my subsequent videos. I'm not trying to ignore you all there in the Northeast. I want to make that clear here, but I'm not going to cover something that is 7+ days out until it really needs to be discussed, because right now we are still seeing some wild scenarios here where some of the models actually bend this entirely back on itself versus some members that bring this all the way up near Maine into Nova Scotia. This is a huge spread, I'm telling you right now, and we just don't know yet if this is going to hit the Northeast or move just offshore, okay? We will hopefully know in the next 3 or 4 days on how close this could potentially get to the Northeast. And the reason why for that is let me open up another tab here. The reason why that is if we take a look at our ensemble forecast from the EPS here and look at the 18Z evolution and the 12Z output, that's what we're going to be using here. Let's go to 500 millibars in the steering flow and look at this chart. There we go. This is what I want. So basically, this is in the Caribbean. We know for a fact that's what's going to happen, but it's going to be the timing of this trough right here, okay? We haven't really had to talk about this yet because our system was a little bit faster, but now it's a little slower in recent model guidance. So now we have to think about this trough here that is moving into the southeastern United States, and it amplifies. Now, when you get a trough like this, depending on the large-scale synoptic pattern that gets involved, if we zoom out here, we have a ridge over trough setup here. So we have a trough here in the southeastern United States underneath this big, sprawling, high-pressure system to the north of where this upper-level low actually is. And we have a little bit of a ridge over here that is currently allowing Melissa to go pretty much due west at a very slow rate right now of only a mile an hour. This is a complicated forecast, and models really have a hard time resolving this on a finer scale. So when we let's see here. So let's take this into consideration. So we can see some model members bring this into the Northeast. Well, that's because the trough in some of the ensemble members are stronger with the trough, and they allow the trough to dig down a little further south, allowing the system to phase, what we call atmospheric phasing, where we get a hurricane, in this case, phasing up to this trough as it digs southeastward and allows and grabs and ushers the system a little further north before making the turn back to the Northeast. Quite similar with what we saw with Hurricane Henri just about 5 or so years ago, where we had the system doing this and it kind of curved around like that, like a U shape. We're seeing something here similar, but only that the system's coming from a different angle of attack, and it is approaching this pattern a little differently. But just so you know, this trough and this ridge make things really complicated, and models are not handling this very well. We got to understand, too, there are 51 different versions of the future, 51 different members of the ensemble Euro that render. So one member might show the trough a little stronger and the ridge a little stronger, helping to usher the storm a little closer to the Northeast. And the other member might say, oh, that's not happening. It's going to be a weaker trough, and the ridge is going to be also a little weaker, allowing the system to pretty much stay on a northeast heading thereabout. So we could even see this too on the 18Z model guidance here. And this, again, is very, very sensitive here. Okay, because for one thing, again, that trough comes down into the southeast and the eastern coast. Another trough behind it digs underneath. And what you end up seeing is these amplify each other and allow this ridge to really balloon to the north of the system And we have our system right here. And if this gets caught in the wrong pattern at the wrong time, this could, in theory, bend back a little bit to the north and then eventually turn out to sea like that. I do not see this getting into New York City or the Carolinas at all. I don't see that happening for the time being. In fact, there are no members that show this being ushered in that general direction. But it's something that we will have to be weary of going forward. And I understand your guys' concern on that, but we just don't know in a situation like this. We have to get through with Melissa getting out of the Caribbean first, since that is our #1 top priority right now, as over 3 million people are being impacted by Melissa tonight, okay? So please understand that very carefully, okay? I can only do one thing at a time, but I'm very aware of with what this system may do once it exits the Caribbean. So here's the latest NHC forecast, and we are about to get the new update in. It has not come in yet, but I would imagine this pretty much has not changed much. Maybe have shifted a little bit further to the east, maybe a little bit further to the west, but I don't see this changing much in based on the latest model guidance at the moment. And it does look like this is going to resume a westward heading fairly shortly. Now, the chances of tropical storm force winds here are pretty much at this point at 100% for Jamaica. So Jamaica will be getting tropical storm force winds in the next 24 hours or so, maybe even sooner than that. So you need to make sure you have all windows boarded up. You're ready to go just in case if your house gets destroyed. And hopefully you have moved to higher ground. If you are told to evacuate, please move to higher ground. If so, because this has the capability of doing mass destruction to the island, unfortunately. So now looking at the key points here, I'm not going to read all of these. You guys can check this out on the nhc.noaa.gov website. But long story short, due to Melissa's slow motion, a prolonged multi-day period of damaging winds and heavy rainfall resulting in potentially catastrophic flash flooding. I've said that many times, time and time again, over the last few videos, that there is the possibility here of catastrophic flooding. And so you need to make sure you are prepared for that. Heavy rainfall and catastrophic flash flooding also for Haiti and for the Haitian Peninsula is also anticipated. And we're also looking at the eastern Cuba and the Bahamas. Need to be monitoring this system very closely, as significant surf, storm surge flooding, as well as in some of the islands, they're not very high at all, but some localized flooding is there possible. So let's take a look here at the rainfall forecast, because I got told there's a new advisory out right now. So we'll update you on that briefly once it comes out. But look at these rainfall totals. This is very sickening. This is not good at all. This is from the National Hurricane Center, okay, in Miami, Florida, predicting this over the 4-day period. And anything in pink here, locally higher, and some, again, the higher elevations here could get as much as 30 plus inches of rainfall. I would not be surprised. And again, I don't like to go over the top with this, and I'm not trying to cause more panic than what is already being realized at this time. But again, you got to understand that topographical effects here, orographic effects, really exacerbate and magnify the flood threat in localized areas. And I would not be entirely surprised if the tall mountains here of Jamaica get over 60 inches of rainfall. 60 inches of rainfall in a matter of about 5 or 6 days. That is beyond the imaginary. I think that's even higher than what we saw with Helene and higher than what we saw with Harvey. So this is really, this is not good. I really hate to be the fearmonger type person, but this is the time to fearmonger. This is the time to hype things up, because this has all looks right now, based on what we're seeing on the model guidance, has the looks of being quite the storm on all reasoning. And even 30 plus inches of rainfall potentially over the Tiburon coast here of the Haitian Peninsula of Haiti. That's a lot of rainfall. And now rainfall rate amounts are increasing over eastern Cuba, possibly as much as 4 inches, all the way up to perhaps a foot of rainfall. And then, of course, this will go up once we get closer. My pin is bugging out on me tonight. I don't know why that is, but if you are in the Bahamas and Turks and Caicos Islands, you really need to be aware of this. This is scary. Again, I don't like to use strong wording here, but this is scary. This is not good at all. All right. And just in time for Halloween, we could all say Melissa is going to be possessed by Mother Nature here as she gets going pretty significantly. So here's the 11 o'clock advisory, and they're holding it at 155. They're holding it at 155 right now. There's not enough confidence of that right now at the moment. But again, between these forecast points from hour 60 to hour 72, we could have a max intensity briefly to category 5. It would not surprise me at all on that. So I wanted to read the discussion for you all tonight because, again, this is very important. Everybody is wondering, okay, is the storm tilted? What's going on with the system, David? Before we actually look at the discussion, let's look at latest recon if they made their pass into the system. And what do you know? We lost aircraft data. Did we or did we not? I think we did. Yep, we actually did. So I don't think we have a good idea right now exactly. Yep, we don't have any data on that center. So I would imagine it's probably about the same with the surface pressure. We'll get a drop in there and give us the report here in just a little bit. Actually, we'll get it from the NHC because they're the experts anyway. So reports from the NOAA and Air Force, and there will be some strong wording here. And I'm going to highlight things very, very, very carefully, okay? I'll do my best here at kind of unpacking all of this for you all that are watching this. Let me get my big old fat pin over here ready, my highlighter that is. Actually, we're going to use yellow because yellow is highlighting this, but we'll use some red as well. So this is as of 11 o'clock. Reports from the NOAA and Air Force Hurricane Hunter aircraft indicate that Melissa is still trying to get organized. So still trying to get organized. While the central pressure has fallen to 993, the tail Doppler radar data from the NOAA aircraft shows that the 500 millibar center is displaced about 25 miles east-southeast of the surface center, which is not very significant compared to it being over 100 miles yesterday. So we are seeing the mid-level vortex a little bit more better aligned, not in a way for rapid strengthening, but enough to where the system might attempt to strengthen at little increments. All right. The tilt is also present at the aircraft flight levels, with drop zones released at the flight level center, missing the surface center and reporting 25 to 35 knot surface winds. In addition, that could be a big issue here. So the pressure could be a little bit lower than what the drop zone indicates here, maybe about a millibar lower or two. In addition, the aircraft radar data and land-based radar data from Jamaica show that the cyclone has not yet been able to develop a persistent eye wall. An eye wall is a harbinger, folks, for the system to breathe, to excavate that hot air or warmer air from lower down in the atmosphere and allow the system to develop a warm core. And a warm core, well, means air rises, it's got to spread out, and that lowers the pressures beneath it. So we need a well-defined eye wall and inner core structure to get the system to intensify quickly, which has not happened yet and has been threatening to do so a little bit with that deep convection. So based mainly on the central pressure and satellite intensity estimates, the initial intensity is held at 55 knots. So they are not going any higher on the intensity, which means the system has stopped intensifying altogether right now. Although the initial motion is still a bit uncertain, Melissa now appears to be moving slowly northwest with the initial motion at 325 degrees at 3 knots. So the system is moving a little bit tonight, but again, this could be a little wobble. Maybe another center relocation. Maybe with that vortex, it's a little tilted. Doesn't surprise me at the moment. So there could be a little bit of wiggle woggles. Maybe the system may jump a little further west or a little further south. Those are hard to predict, all right? But right now, it is moving northwest at 3 knots towards Jamaica. Very slow, though. A turn towards the west or west-northwest and a continued slow forward speed are expected over the next 24 hours as the low to mid-level ridging builds to the north of the cyclone. That seems to be the case right now. This motion should continue through about 72 hours. After that time, a deep layer mid-level latitude trough moving into the southeastern United States and the southwestern Atlantic will break the ridge to the north, with Melissa expected to turn northward and eventually northeastward as it recurves into the westerlies. There remains a substantial spread. Okay, here is the big key point, okay, that I cannot explain enough, all right? And this, you all need to understand this, okay? Because this is a big deal. There remains a huge amount of substantial spread in the guidance with respect to where the exact center of Melissa will pass in relation to Jamaica, all right? This could miss Jamaica altogether to the west, or this could miss Jamaica altogether to the east, or it might make a bullseye down the bowling alley and hit all 10 pins down the middle of Jamaica. We don't exactly 100 billion% know. You could ask me all you want. Where is this going to make landfall? I don't have the answer. We need to use our model guidance and average things out. And right now, it seems to be still western central Jamaica. That central western half seems to have a slightly higher chance of getting a landfall, with solutions ranging from the GFS passing near the eastern end of the island to the Canadian passing west of the island. Still seems to be. The new track forecast is similar to the previous track and shows the center passing over Jamaica just after 72 hours. However, any motion north of the current forecast track could bring the center near or over Jamaica at almost any time between 24 hours and 72 hours. After passing Jamaica, Melissa is likely to move near or over the eastern Cuba, but with which portion of eastern Cuba may be most affected remains very uncertain at this time because, well, we have to get through with it impacting Jamaica. Okay, so reading this discussion, I am agreeing with them. I'm totally agreeing with them on this. There's no reasoning to believe that the forecast guidance should change a little further west or a little further east. I think my forecast here is pretty much on par with theirs. Maybe a little bit towards the west, like into western portion of Jamaica, maybe into central portion. Eastern portion of Jamaica is still on the table, but not very highly likely at the moment. But that can change in a blink of an eye, in a hurry. All it takes is 2 model cycles, and that's what you get. Okay, so now, very key point here, this whole intensity discussion, and I love when my thing bugs out again. All right, this discussion is very important, and I'm drawing a little bit of a hurricane myself on it. Love ya. I love myself sometimes, right? So while the westerly shear that has been affecting Melissa will not completely stop during the next 2 to 3 days, so it doesn't look like the shear is going to back down as much as what we thought before, but it is forecast to decrease to about 10 to 15 knots in the next 24 hours or less. This should allow rapid development as the storm is located in a very moist environment over very warm sea surface temperatures of almost 31 Celsius. And the one short-term restraining factor is that Melissa's structure is not quite good enough yet to allow rapid intensification. So we need to keep that in mind until, again, and let me draw it up here on the discussion. I know I'm going to draw over the NHC's discussion. So think about that. This is the water. This is the surface, right? There's your ocean, right? And then, of course, let's go into the vertical right here. So your vortex is kind of like this right now, kind of like a tornado, and is tilted with height, okay? That's not going to allow great strengthening because, well, a lot of your heat energy that would otherwise be used to strengthen and lower the pressures is being blown out in one direction almost and being restricted on the western side. What we need to see happen for rapid intensification to occur is this vortex needs to stack. So where the low or where the mid-level vortex stacks on top of the low-level vortex, and we will know that pretty quickly because we'll get a lot of convective banding on satellite and on radar data as well. And that has not happened yet. So until that occurs, the intensity is a bit murky. And thus, it could be another 12 hours before rapid intensification begins in earnest. The latest round of intensity guidance shows somewhat lower peak intensities than the previous advisory, mainly due to the models moving Melissa near or over Jamaica. However, the current forecast track keeps the center offshore for at least 72 hours or more, and based on this, the new intensity forecast is at the high end of the guidance with a peak intensity of 135 knots. Despite the weaker guidance, there is still a possibility that Melissa could become a Category 5. I am highlighting that in pink, okay? The NHC repetitively discussing this. There is still a possibility that Melissa could become a Category 5 hurricane during the forecast period, okay? Between the hours. So between 60 hours and 72 hours, there could be that brief maximum of about 160 miles an hour. Will this become a historically strong hurricane like we saw on the models a few days ago? That does not look likely at the moment just because of how close it will more likely be towards Jamaica. But regardless of how strong this is, it's not going to matter a whole lot because the flooding outweighs the wind right now. After passing near or over Jamaica, the cyclone is forecast to weaken due to possible interaction with Cuba and increasing southwesterly vertical wind shear as Melissa encounters the mid-latitude westerlies. Okay. So that's something to consider here. And boy, I'll tell you right now, 72 hours a hurricane. So kind of modest strengthening over the next 12 hours. But boy, oh boy, I cannot stress this enough. I just cannot say this enough. Once the vortexes align, okay, we are going to have a hefty amount of explosive intensification that could unfold here. And we are looking at a very, very fast rate of intensification here. This is almost 30 miles an hour spread between 75 miles an hour in 12 hours. By tomorrow night, that the system could be a Cat 2 or even a little stronger than that. And then by Sunday morning here, the system could be a Cat 3 or even a Cat 4 hurricane. And then you can see right up in here, 155 miles per hour. So my personal opinion on this, and they did make it clear that they are above most of the intensity guidance, which is why I am not convinced yet that this is going to become a Cat 5 yet, and will likely be a low to mid grade, probably a low, yeah, more likely a low end Category 4 with 135, maybe 140 mile an hour winds when it reaches its peak. So I'm still underneath the National Hurricane Center for the time being because of the current status of the system. Now, if the system could organize faster than what I'm thinking, then this system could become a Cat 5 in no time. We've seen it with past historic hurricanes like Milton. Milton went through all of the categories in under 24 hours. This could certainly have that potential here because of how moist, warm the atmosphere is, but that vertical wind shear could keep things in check from that occurring at the moment. All right, so, man, it is 8:09, and I took a full-on hour and 9 minutes of my discussion. Man, I feel like I've been ignoring you all. I am so sorry about that. I did want to proudly announce, folks, that I have reached 60,000 subscribers today. I want to say thank you all for supporting the channel thus far. Never thought I was going to get this big this fast. And so I want to give you all a huge round of applause, a huge thank you for supporting the YouTube channel, because I'm telling you, it has not been easy. This has not been easy at all for me to track this all for you all on Tropical Storm Melissa. This has been a very stressful time for me, and I'll explain more on that in just a second. But yeah, this is my latest sub number, so I want to say thank you all. Maybe our goal tonight could be 60,200. That is certainly a distinct possibility. Can't believe it. 60K, folks. Thank you all. But yeah, this has been such a stressful situation that I actually had an emotional breakdown last night, tracking this system, because it has just been very, very stressful. And again, I have not been able to sleep at all. And that's why I want to get to bed a lot earlier tonight, because I have been very, very, very stressed out on the system, keeping you all updated around the clock when needed. And I'm just hoping, and I can pray to myself, that I can actually sleep a lot better tonight, because I just don't think I am because of this system. But how's everybody doing tonight? How is your guys' Friday night coming along? We are tracking Melissa here for another 15 minutes. And then I'm going to probably skedaddle out of here, because I am pretty exhausted. I only got an hour of sleep last night, and I have to be up at 5:30 in the morning, not to upload on YouTube, but to actually go to my other job, my primary job. Well, this is my primary job, but my secondary job. Yeah, also don't forget to like the stream as well, because I'm telling you all right now, I got approval from C Jamaica. Actually, let me go check out his channel for you all. This guy is really, really awesome, and I contacted him, C Jamaica, right here. So this guy has live cameras, and so of course I'm gonna contribute to his channel. I'm gonna put a link in the description once that happens, because we are going to do overnight live coverage around the clock once Jamaica makes landfall. If it does make landfall on Jamaica over Kingston, we have plenty of cameras.
You deserve the best.
I just wanted to show you all
at
this
Harbor
really
Freight.
quickly.
You can afford it.
See, Jamaica, I'm going to give you huge credit really quickly here. So, yeah, we will be able to show you all real-time coverage of winds, storm surge, flooding, and that sort of thing for you all. This is not for entertainment purposes. This is to show you all the dangers of what a storm can bring. And so I will be providing around-the-clock live streaming coverage on the system probably Monday night. Let me look at the timing on the system first. And okay, we have a hurricane warning now in effect. A hurricane warning is in effect for Jamaica now. So you need to take this pretty seriously. Well, I'm hoping you already did. But yes, there is a hurricane warning in effect for Jamaica. No longer a tropical storm watch. Let's see what else here. Yeah, pretty much where I think this is going to go. You can see the plots here showing where the system's going to be moving over, pretty much right over the central portion of Jamaica. So it looks like it's going to make landfall Monday night, and that is Jamaica time. Actually, Jamaica is in Eastern Daylight Time, right, folks? Jamaica is in Eastern Time, right? I want to make sure, because I think they're in Bermuda time. I think they're 4 hours ahead. Maybe they are 3 hours ahead. I don't know all my time zones, folks, so I apologize by that. All right, they are in Eastern time zone. Okay, so this would be 3 hours ahead of me, because I'm in Pacific Daylight Time. So this would be 5 p.m. on Monday. What does my schedule look like on Monday? Shoot, I have to work that day. No, I am not working that day. I am off that day on Monday. So I will be free all day Monday. And so I will have to get that stream going. Probably, shoot, this is going to be moving very slow. Actually, man, probably Sunday before I go to work, I'll have to get the stream going because on Sunday it's going to be right here Sunday morning. So probably by Sunday night, it's going to be over here somewhere. So that's pretty close to Jamaica. So I'm probably going to go live Sunday night then, and it's going to be a 2-day marathon of streaming. And I'm going to need help with this. This is going to be pretty stressful. So more than likely from Sunday night. Oh wait, no. Yes, from Sunday night or Sunday afternoon all the way through, let's see, Tuesday, probably Tuesday, and even we'll go live once it goes over Cuba. So I'm going to be probably live through Tuesday night or even Wednesday morning on this system. Yeah, it's going to be a long 3 or 4 days on the channel. So if you have not subscribed to the channel, this is the time to doing so. I'm still figuring out the timing of all of this. I have to get stuff set up again. Like I told you all, I am under pressure right now. I am really stressed out about this. There's a lot of moving parts going on. I have a carnival next week at church that I'm helping out with. And I have this hurricane that I'm tracking. It's just, I'm very overwhelmed. I am extremely overwhelmed. And so I'm hoping some of you will step up and help me out with all of this because, I mean, I thought I was not going to track a hurricane, literally, in late October, but instead we are. So yeah, I'm just, it's gonna be long hay bale ride, I'm telling you. So yeah, this is bad. This is gonna be bad. Hey, looks like the CDO is trying to expand again. Yep, CDO is trying to expand a little bit more. So I don't know. That might equate to some strengthening. Oh, yeah. I think it is trying to. You can see the CDO right here. So it is trying to get better aligned. It's fighting very hard right now. And there's the airplane right there. The C-1 good old 30 Hercules. It's actually what the plane actually is. It's a Hercules C-130 aircraft, but it is modified for weather research. So it's a WCJ-130 that they're out there. There's 2 different model of planes. There's a P-3 Orion, there's a G-4 aircraft, and then there's, of course, what we like to have here is the Air Force mission. You want to tell me, can I memorize all the airplanes? Yes, I can. Gonzo is the upper level drop zone mission that flies these systems. Miss Piggy, as well as Kermit, are the low level recon missions. Funny enough, I could remember that. Last time I looked up those names was about 10 years ago. And 4 or 5 years ago, something like that. And I can still remember that. I know it's because of daylight saving time, but you know what? I'm going to ask ChatGPT. Hey, Siri, what time is it in Jamaica right now? What? They're 2 hours ahead. Okay, that complicates things. So they're 2 hours ahead, not 3 hours ahead. So I guess they do not observe. Maybe, yeah, timing and all this. So they're 2 hours ahead. That's crazy. Wow. Okay. So that means 6 p.m. Monday, it's going to hit Jamaica or close to that instead of 5 p.m. So yeah, that means 1 extra hour to be stressed out about because of the timing of all of this. But we are going to need to watch this right here, this balloon of thunderstorms right here. Does this try to yank the center underneath it? It looks like with this comma shape, though, that the system is trying to reconsolidate or really try to get its act together somewhere right in here. In fact, I would not be entirely surprised. You know what? I'm going to wait for the next, well, it's going to be a while for the next recon plane to get in there. I might wait. I don't know. It looks like the center is trying. So we're right here, 16 north, right? 16 north is where it is kind of located. Man, yeah. Oh, that's close. Very, very close. The center is probably somewhere over in here. Actually, it might be a little further. Might be even over here where all the deepest convection is. So that is not far. That is not far. At least 20 or so nautical miles. But it is awfully, awfully close of becoming better established. I don't think Jamaica celebrates daylight saving time. Well, we are in daylight saving time. Wait, so they're an hour behind. They're an hour, so they're on their standard time. Wait, no, daylight DST, right? Oh wait, central. Oh wait, something like that. I am praying we don't get hit in South Florida. There is no solution that's going to happen. Okay, some of you have been saying, oh, is it going to hit Florida? Is it going to hit Florida? No, 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 no. Say it with me. No, it's not going to hit Florida. There is no way on God's green earth this is actually going to hit Florida. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I think the Canadian model is a little too aggressive, a little too far to the west with its solution right now. Okay, and so that's what confuses a lot of people. I would still throw that out right now. It's kind of like the GFS, but far west, you know. Just like the GFS is far east, we can see the different solutions here on the modeling. Okay. The system is handled differently on the global models, depending on what run you look at. So it's basically coming to Jamaica. Yes, it is. At this point, I am pretty confident that Jamaica is going to either get a direct landfall or it is going to be literally a close one for the western tip of Jamaica or the far eastern tip of Jamaica. So anywhere in this box, there seems to be a narrowing where we think the landfall is going to be, but exactly where in Jamaica, we do not know. But I want to emphasize it does not matter, okay? It does not matter that, oh, okay, I'm not as close to the center. That doesn't mean your impacts are going away. All right, impacts are the #1 related killer with systems like this. And one of the impacts will be, look at all of this orange, red, and pink. That's rain. That's rain that does not stop falling. Okay, and of course, the inner core structure here makes things a lot worse than it should be. So you can see it starts raining in Jamaica. Yeah, it starts raining pretty much in Jamaica and parts of it by, let's just say, Saturday night. Yeah, so Saturday night, Sunday night, that's 24 hours. It's a full day of heavy rainfall. Monday night, Tuesday night. So maybe a little bit of leftover rainfall. So almost a 3 full day period of really intense rainfall rates. All right, actually, we can bring Logan on for a little bit. He is our hurricane expert. If you're willing to join for a little bit, Logan, because I want to get your insights on this. I think it's fighting very, very hard to get better established. I really think it is. But you're the expert in all of this, so that's why I'm going to you, because you know vortexes, because you're going to school for physics and stuff. So, that's why I love him on the channel. Yeah, you can join. Yeah, Logan, I'll give you a call. What's up, Logan? How are you doing?
Hello?
Hey.
Yeah, so I could see this storm going directly over Jamaica. I mean, right now, I'm not sure if you've noticed, because you were talking about the central dense overcast.
Mm-hmm.
Directly in the middle of the storm, the temperature is estimated to be about negative 94 degrees Celsius. So this storm is trying to produce a stronger updraft at the current given time. Looking at the loop, um, it's looking like it's trying to get stronger. So I think the stronger it could get, the more east the storm's going to hit on Jamaica. Just considering the fact that it's gonna feel more of the effects the stronger the storm is. So I could see central Jamaica basically being struck like NHC is predicting.
Man, that's bad. That is very bad. And yeah, we'll track this for a little bit longer here. There's a lot of lightning on this, and cloud tops are negative 130 Fahrenheit. That is utterly cold. That is very, very cold. And there is a crap ton of lightning right in here. So that is a very, very, very vigorous, intense mid-level vortex that is in place. I would assume that the low-level vortex is somewhere over in here, and the mid-level vortex is right in here where all this lightning is happening. So there is still a tilt here with what is going on, but that CDO expanding though really begs the question that the system is trying to get better established. But yeah, these are
Yeah, I
very cold.
agree.
Yeah, these are very cold cloud tops, and that means there's a lot of lightning. You know, because when you get very vigorous, intense updrafts, those cloud tops cool down rapidly. You get a lot of charge separation, and then that is what you get as lightning. And the frequency of the lightning here is pretty utterly bad in itself. I've never seen this in a while. And if we actually go to Weather Nerds and look at their satellite product here, it will give us a number of lightning strikes the system is producing right now. And let me zoom in on that. Oh, yeah, look at that CDO right there. That is very laminar. Let's zoom in right here. Yeah, let's zoom in since we did our
Hey, do you know where
discussion.
I can look at the Dovrik technique on Melissa?
Go to RAL, so real analysis something. It's real time tropical cyclones, so it's RAL. I call it RAL. It's this website right here. You can go check that out, and that's where it gives you the ADT. I'll just
It's just University of Oklahoma.
something like that. Well, I sent you the
Okay.
link. I sent you the link.
Yeah, I just searched it up because I'm looking at it through my computer. I'm trying to see if I can find anything at the moment.
So let's loop
Let's
this.
see. Hmm. Okay, I have to look at that.
This is not showing as much lightning. It's showing a lot of lightning at times in the CDO, and those cloud tops are off the charts. Those are negative 90 to negative 95 Celsius. So that is as cold as it can potentially get here with the cloud top temperatures. And this is not radar. Some of you might mistake this as, oh, it's radar, David. No, this is measuring how cold, how violent, how intense the updrafts in these storms are. And so the colder the cloud tops, essentially, the stronger the updrafts are, and the more lightning you get, which gives us a telltale sign that the updrafts in these storms are so vigorous right now. And I would not be surprised with what Recon will find once they get back in there.
Yeah, right now Recon is on the outer edge of the storm on the northern flank. The other Recon mission that got the lower pressure has just recently finished. So at the moment there is
Oh, of
still
course.
there's a little bit of discourse in the actual intensity for a little while before that storm gets closer to the center again and finds that next low pressure fix.
Yeah. So
I'm just trying to find the trying to find it in here right now for the. Oh, here we go. Let's see.
Looks
Right now, it's still the same as it was earlier. I mean, right now I'm getting a final T value of 3.6. I'm not 100% familiar on the Doverick, but I think that was about. What was that? Is that stronger than it was earlier?
it's yeah. Also, we got the latest pressure reading from the recon. So the system appears to be drifting very slowly to the northeast at about a mile an hour, which is again uncertain, as I've talked about many times already. This is woggling all over the place, but a turn eventually to the west will occur relatively soon, probably overnight tonight. And this latest fix deployment here is within this CDO. So this is not extremely tilted by any means. And the system is trying to get itself much better established. It's really trying to get its act together. Whether or not will this become a formidable hurricane, I think it definitely will. There's definitely that vertical wind shear that the system is dealing with right now.
Do you know how much vertical wind shear at the moment it's dealing with? Because it looks like it's dealing with less, I want to say, but I haven't seen it in the past day. But I know yesterday it was about 20 knots to 30 knots, if I remember correctly.
So let me look at the shear analysis. So the system is dealing with 15 knots of shear out of the west. If we go and look at the actual shear, yeah, shear is at around 12 knots right now. So it is not very strong, and it is weak enough to where the vortex can vertically align and get rapid intensification underway, but it's going to take a little bit of time because that shear is, of course, not zero. But it is
Like
not
we've been seeing.
pretty much. We saw a threat. I think this new blob of convection that really has gone gain busters just recently with a new burst might be the beginning stages of the center trying to realign itself a little bit more. Actually, with that low level center moving northeast, it's probably actually slowly merging with the mid level vortex that is actually moving generally to the northwest overall. And so I would not be surprised if these two meet each other here in the next few hours. And once that begins, I think we're going to see a bout of rapid intensification.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure NHC talked about that in the advisory, if I remember correctly, with the 6 to 12 hours beforehand. I think they mentioned that.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, that makes sense given the fact that, I mean, I'm seeing cloud top still around negative 93 degrees, 92 degrees, around the center of the CDO. I mean, it's probably not the central low pressure at the surface,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I know they talked about the low levels and the mid levels of the storm coming closer together and converging very soon. So I totally agree that this is probably on the path of doing a merger.
And we can see the lightning data right here. It's going to pop up in just a second. There it is. Look at all of that lightning going off in that inner core structure, trying to establish itself. Man, this is vigorous. So you guys learned a little bit from my channel tonight, huh? That colder the cloud tops, the more vigorous and violent the updrafts actually are. If you can, let me turn you down here because there's background noise. Yeah. So the stronger the updrafts, the colder the cloud tops are, and there's lightning like this, gives us a sign that the mid-level vortex is really, really robust. And it's not going to take long. It isn't going to take long for those to align. And once that happens, click on your seatbelts. That's basically what it is. Click it or ticket, in other words. What's up, Steven WX YouTube? How are you doing? Good morning. Will Melissa become a high-end Category 4 stalling over Jamaica over the next 3 to 5 days? And so, it is looking like it's not going to stall over Jamaica. It's going to be moving very slowly. Some model solutions have it moving extremely slower than others. But I would honestly, a storm that stalls, it would make things way worse than if it didn't stall, but it really won't matter because the rain is just going to be, it's going to be bad. It's going to be catastrophic. We are looking at one of the worst potential storms to make landfall in Jamaica since Gilbert, if I remember that correctly, right, Logan?
Yes. Another good one would probably be Paloma of 2008.
Dang. So we are making,
Because that's the same region, not as strong. That was a very impactful storm of 2008 in the Caribbean.
geez.
But otherwise, intensity-wise, Gilbert would be closer in intensity because this thing could make a run for Category 5. And Paloma was either a 3 or 4, if I remember correctly. To pull it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, just give me a second on that, and I'll get you your answer on Paloma.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this has the potential of being a really big threat. Or not big threat, but a really big catastrophic event. But it really is going to depend on the structure. Again, now casting this storm is very important because the longer this takes to intensify or get organized, the weaker it's going to be once it moves into Jamaica, which of course, we all want this to be as weak as it can be possible, right? That means the impacts won't be as bad. But we cannot wish. Wishing is not a tool that we got to rely on. This has all indications that it is going to be a formidable hurricane once it moves onshore or gets close to making landfall somewhere in the central Jamaican coast. Again,
You also want it weaker too, so it's going to be steered further west, so that way it doesn't actually end up making a landfall because it's not going to be feeling the effects of that trough to the north that you were talking about as much. So it's not going to be, it's going to move around it a bit more, so it's going to go a little further to the south and then turn north later at a stronger intensity and be pulled up to the north even faster at a stronger rate of intensity.
yeah.
So you want it weaker in a sense, but at the same time you don't. It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah. This is something that we'll have to watch. 30 to 40 inches of rain, wind gusting over 150. I don't think you could get much worse if this verifies on Melissa. Oh yeah, easily. In fact, if we look at the low-level winds, which give us a good idea on how strong winds could gust here, if we look at the Halves A to look at that, winds could gust potentially up to 150 knots, which would be 170 miles an hour, 180 miles an hour. That would be pretty devastating. Yeah. I don't know how much worse this could actually get, except it's going to be really, really, really bad. Looking at these simulated satellite imagery, this is very symmetrical, which worries me because this could have a very small eye. And my friend here, Logan, I've learned from him on this. Smaller the eye, the more unstable the vortex actually is, and it undergoes eye wall replacement cycles, which would ultimately weaken the storm, but spread out the wind field and bring even more heavy rainfall to Jamaica. So something that we'll need to consider too. But
That
wow,
is correct.
That right there is certainly the looks of a Category 5 hurricane with those very intense cold cloud tops.
Yeah, hey David, I got the track of Paloma. It's not so much where it formed or where it's going. because Paloma was one of the most devastating hurricanes to Cuba, and it was just west of Jamaica by a good deal. But intensity-wise, it's about about the same intensity of about 125 knots, so slightly weaker. But to the west of Jamaica, it did come north from near the Yucatan. But considering that the storms are going to be either making landfall in that region or have made landfall in that region, is the most closely related storm in terms of intensity and location and impacts possible. But obviously, the storm will be much worse because Paloma didn't really stall.
Oh yeah. This system
Mhm.
is going to make history, I think, because again, a stalling
Mhm.
system bringing heavy rainfall or it drifting very slowly is just, it kind of reminds me of Harvey. Harvey almost stalled it, but it drifted onshore. It just really moved slow. So this is kind of like a Harvey, but in Jamaica. So
I
for
was
what,
actually going to say the same thing.
yeah. So,
Harvey brought like six. Sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
Harvey actually brought like 60 inches of rain or so to the Houston metro area. It went onshore then offshore, so it didn't stall, but it effectively just meandered over the same area for just days.
Oh, yeah.
Hmm.
So let's talk about the steering because rushing dot 67 said flat ridge. The ridge is going to be relatively flat here, especially in mid latitudes. There's not like this big old fat omega blocking ridge here, but there is a ridge to the north because, of course, when you have higher heights to the north of a system, that's a ridge of high pressure in definition. So we have a ridge here, got a trough here that's moving into the high plains, bringing severe weather to the plains over the next couple of days. And here is Melissa mired underneath this ridge. So this ridge is flat, but in relation to where Melissa is, this is a strong enough ridge to pull the storm or usher the storm westward before this trough here moves to the southeastern United States and allows Melissa to sharply turn out to sea, not really out to sea in this case, but towards Cuba, then out to sea over the Bahama Islands. And that's been the case for a while now that this trough is going to be in place and the system will have an escape avenue to exit the Caribbean. Because I'll tell you, after this is all over, I will be glad it's over because this is going to be one for the record books for Jamaica, unfortunately.
Oh, for sure. It's probably going to break Paloma's record because Paloma was considered one of the most devastating storms for the Cuban area. I feel like once the storm comes through, it's going to break Paloma's record by a large amount.
My gosh, dude.
Mhm.
Um, Western. Okay, let's see who else is here. By the way, we have 640 people watching. Thank you all for tuning in to this. I'm really happy for you all to be here. I am gonna once the next recon pass moves into the center, though. I am gonna call it a night because I have to get up very early in the morning. But I will still be here until that recon mission or flight comes in. It will be another probably another 30 minutes or so, but then I am going to end it there because I want to just see if the winds have intensified on the northern side or the southeastern side because of this blob of deep convection that has really exploded over the system. Probably hasn't contributed to much strengthening, but I mean these cloud tops. Wait, yeah, they could up it. But boy, those cloud tops are really cold. Yeah, that is negative 95 Celsius. That is as cold as I have seen the cloud tops in a long while. In a while.
Yeah, the cyclone site actually tells you how cold they are exactly at the minimum temperature and the tropical cyclone's temperature in the center.
Oh, really? Oh gosh. I gotta
Yep.
see this.
That's why I use this site all the time because it actually shows me the temperature of the actual storm. Currently, we are looking at just it's running a little slowly for me.
Yeah,
We are
okay,
looking at
91.
about negative 91.23 degrees.
Man,
But
that's cold.
yeah, there's still
Dang.
that little area in the center that's trying to burst, like it's been doing off and on. I mean, coldest it got was negative 94 so far.
That's not long ago either. That is
No,
really, really cold. That is
it's
very
gonna
cold.
it's gonna oscillate around that a bit more. But basically, though, that is not a good sign. This is
No.
what happened with Major Hurricane Eric over in the Pacific. It got a huge blob of convection, and then suddenly its wind speeds increased 20 miles an hour.
Boy. Oh boy. Yeah, cloud tops on the mesofloater were as cold as negative 94.9 Celsius. So that is very cold. And again, colder the cloud tops, the more vigorous and violent the updrafts actually are, because they are, I'm telling you guys, these updrafts are very, very tall and very, very strong. Actually, strong enough that they actually punch briefly into the upper troposphere. They're very, very tall. They are high. And actually, I wanted to show you some visible satellite imagery earlier today on what that actually looks like. If I can. Darn it. Nope, I can't because it's dark already on the radar omega on the visible. But it's like a pot of boiling water. It's the convection is so violent. It is so violent. And that's,
Something else to notice.
oh, what is it?
Something else to notice with this storm. The most of these storms this season, you know how they haven't been this deep in convection. They've been about maybe negative 85 degrees at the coldest.
Yeah.
The fact that this storm is this much colder consistently, I mean, there's only so much telling how strong this could get. I mean, we had Aaron and Humberto reach Category 5, and their cloud tops weren't even this cold. And even so, the storm is still intensifying. It never even had these colder cloud tops and tropical storm stages like this storm does.
Jeez.
The only time I've seen them this cold is with Milton recently.
Wow. Yeah, that goes to show you just how high the upper ocean heat content is. This is very high.
Not just the upper ocean heat content, just the temperature of the ocean itself just goes to show you how much it can impact this storm. I mean, these storms before were going under about 29 degrees Celsius, 28 degrees Celsius in most situations. This storm is going under 30 degrees Celsius, maybe even more.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Really makes a huge difference. I'm gonna
Yep.
see if they've gotten their pass in yet, but yeah.
Cloud tops have
Also,
warmed a little bit, but I'm afraid we'll have another little big old burst here in a little bit. I just have feeling.
yeah, they're gonna oscillate because the storm is still trying to get itself organized and get itself together because it's still slightly tilted, but like we mentioned before, it's likely gonna converge with its mid-level circulation.
Mm-hmm. Actually, I think I can see the mid-level circulation on the meso here. Actually, when I play this through, look closely. You could actually see the dance here of two convective hot towers slowly spinning about here. They're spinning pretty fast. That is a very, very intense mid-level circulation, and the low-level circulation's over here. So, boy, I'm telling you, oh man, it's kind of like almost getting ready to slap someone in the face. Like once these two click, that clicking sound, it's not literally a clicking sound, but once that low level center tucks underneath that convection long enough and an eye wall is able to get firmly established, it's off to the races. Start your engines. And then here we go.
It's more like a build. I'd say it's more like a buildup of like centrifugal force. It's going around and around, and it's got something that's yanked around it. Once that low level center goes through and gets underneath the mid level circulation, it's just going to be released, and basically it's going to go flying because of all the excess energy that's on the outside. Because there's more energy that has to be used in order for something further away from the center to actually be able to go. So that means
Mm-hmm.
it's going to fly fast.
Oh, yeah. In fact, that CDO is really, it's trying to become symmetrical as well. I'm looking for
Hmm.
the lamination of the CDO. So you can kind of, the center is definitely underneath this somewhere. And that CDO is a little bit more less weighted than it was earlier. So the vertical wind shear is, can you, is that background sound, Logan?
Yeah, just a second.
Yeah. So sorry about that, folks. So the vertical
Yeah,
wind
sorry,
shear.
I'm just around a bunch of people. I have no way around that, unfortunately.
Okay. So the mid-level
Yeah,
circulation, the mid-level shear is still hitting the system hard enough to where that circulation is offset just by a little bit, but it's not far. It's only like about 15 to 25 miles offset. And once those two centers align and aligned, um, I mean, this is a ticking time bomb. It is a ticking time bomb waiting to go off. Center has not really moved much at all, though.
that could be because these two centers are trying to get closer to each other. So maybe because they're going different directions, they're slowing each other down too, on top of that. Because while there's not many steering currents, because these two are trying to become more centrally aligned, because they're already so close, they're
Mm-hmm.
moving slower because they're impacting each other in the sense that you got some of you got the low level center going counterclockwise, but it's pushing against the counterclockwise motion of the mid level center.
Makes sense.
So
Wow,
they're kind of
dude.
dancing around each other a little bit.
Man, that convection. Yeah.
Hmm.
Wow, that outflow is racing out from this thing. And you can
Yeah, not a
see it
good sign.
right. And then it looked like a little face on this too. You can see there's an eye here and there's a little mouth. Looks like a little face looking at all of my viewers that are watching. Probably a possessed looking face that's saying, "Oh, I see you. I'm about to intensify." That's pretty dang scary. That's very
Hmm.
deep. So,
That CDO has really gotten massive.
yeah, it's not very, it's somewhat lopsided though, but it's expanding again. It's expanding outward here on the western side, which means this vertical wind shear is in theory not strong enough to keep this kind of like over here kind of thing. This is really expanding westward a little bit.
Yeah, give it a minute and then it'll go all the way around the center of the storm. And then it'll be completely surrounded in this dense CDO.
Oh,
Actually, I'm going to be measuring how large the CDO is.
all right. We got cloud tops of negative 92 Celsius. So they're cooling again,
Hmm.
right where that convection is.
Yep. Yeah, let me just try and get a satellite. I can estimate the distance using Zoom Earth over here. But I'm going to try and figure out just how large the CDO actually is.
Yeah, I can't wait for that recon aircraft to get in there. That's going to be our food. It does look like, though, this wind field overall has strengthened a little bit more. So we are seeing a little bit stronger northeasterlies here on this side leg going westbound. And we have a wind barb now that is up to 40 knots at the moment on that side. There was a lot lesser wind up here to the north now. So it's going to be interesting with what they find in this incoming leg once they fly through on the northwestern leg into the northwestern side to see if this wind field closer to the center has strengthened. Because if it has, there's your answer. I think the circulation is trying to get better aligned. So that's something that we are going to need to watch. So again, when it comes to a strengthening system, what I'm looking for, folks, is a wind maximum closer to the center that does try to get established, okay? And once that happens, you know that, oh, an inner core structure is trying to form. And I would assume that the center is somewhere over here right now. And the mid-level center is not far behind. So it is, I mean, it's close. It is close enough to where we are seeing this. Okay, it does.
Yeah, David, I have the CDO. I have it measured long ways. It's about 175 miles going from the northwest to the southeast quadrants of this storm. And then going from the shorter ways, it's about 150 miles. So it's slightly offset.
Okay.
Yeah, it's only slightly offset because it's still trying to wrap all the way around.
Mm-hmm.
But that tells me that this thing is in the process of trying to rapidly intensify.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
See what the lightning is doing. I didn't get no new lightning strikes in that center yet. Oh, yeah, we do. We have more lightning strikes. Oh, wow. A lot of them still going on. Yeah, cloud tops are definitely hanging steady at negative 130, negative 140
Yeah, I'm
Fahrenheit.
looking at the lightning right now that you're showing. That is quite a bit more than what there was earlier.
Oh, someone said the CMC model is coming out, right? Oh, that's right. It's almost 9 o'clock. Our 0Z models are coming in. 0Z models. I'm not staying up for all of them. I am, once this plane makes its move through the center, I want to get that wind field before I go to bed here and head off.
Yeah, it looks like they're still going outwards.
Big correction
But
made
they
on the CMC. Big correction made on the CMC. Sorry to interrupt. Oh, yeah. Much bigger correction made on the CMC model. Canadian. So this is going to be right over Jamaica. It's going to go right over Jamaica. I can just see it happening because now the southernmost. Well, actually, no, this is further north. Well, we'll see what it does. Might go over Jamaica directly. We'll see about that. Why does it look like it going under Jamaica? Like under Jamaica, as in like south of Jamaica? Well, that's because the steering currents to the north of the system are directing the system. Will soon direct the system westward. That's exactly why the trough to the north was not strong enough to pull this northeastward into Hispaniola, which would otherwise not allow this to strengthen very much at all. And that is a deep CDO right there. And by Tuesday, it's going
so
up.
far, sorry. Yeah, so far I haven't gotten a sign of the recon going back into the system still. It's on the exact same spot it was. They'll probably update in a minute though, and I'll see if they're going back in or not.
Okay, you
I
know
do
what?
also want to mention. Earlier, they found an estimated drop zone of 991 millibars, but they never seem to have counted it for the advisory or any of that stuff because
Well, because of
that's.
tilt. Because of tilt.
Yeah.
By the way, this, if you look at the image closely, this is why I like 1 minute images on the meso floater. I am thinking the center of the deepest convection is now moving west. It is actually moving west a little bit more, or even northwest, northwest. So I think it's about to get better aligned. I think we're seeing a reattempt at that happening with that CDO definitely expanding a little bit further.
Yeah, I see that happening too.
You can, if you follow where the center of that deepest convection is, it's sprawling and it's moving this way. Might mean it's trying to get better aligned. And that's why I like these 1 minute infrared satellite images, these mesofloater images that update every single minute and give us, like, look at this is a full minute right here. You can see a full minute makes all the difference. And that's how much the clouds change each minute, folks. Pretty cool, isn't it? I think Halves
You can even
B.
see gravity waves.
Oh yeah, that's been the story with this storm is producing
I mean,
gravity.
in the latest minutes, look at the outer waves in the northeast quadrant at that edge there. You can just see it just sprawling right out.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There was a big gravity wave semi outbreak this morning on the visible. It was like, man, thing is really pumping.
Yeah, it's kind of doing that again now.
So let's take a look here. Again, Jamaica on this model, we're not getting our 0Z models in right now, and I'm not going to be up for that. I do need my beauty sleep, but I will see it in the morning. And if it's bad enough, I will make a community post on it. But yeah, this is what the pressure is on the latest Halves A, 916 millibars. That is very, very low. Would not even be surprised if this gets even lower than what is being realized. So we're going to need to watch this.
Yeah, we got to be careful in the fact that the Halves B might not come to fruition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember that showed 884 millibars and about 200-mile-an-hour winds
Oh
at
my
one point.
gosh, yeah. That was
Mm-hmm.
sickening. Yeah, you have that hitting Jamaica. Life is over on Jamaica. We had a 200
The
mile
whole
an hour.
island would be over.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, I saw that and it was petrifying, to say the least.
Someone is asking what category is this at? It's tropical storm category. That's where it's at. Okay, we're getting
It's a
another.
subcategory.
Yeah. So right now we're getting another burst of deep cloud tops, negative 91.5 now on the latest frame. And yeah, you can see right here, there's a centroid of where the clouds or the ripples are going directly outward right here. So that's probably, and why is it not as deep as what you might think here is because sometimes infrared can do weird things with hot towers. Sometimes the hot towers themselves are actually warmer than the surrounding cloud tops, which is why you might see warmer cloud tops, even so they're actually higher. So in this case, these are probably higher, but not really cooling off all that much compared to this over here, where cloud tops are much colder. That actually might be, it's actually not really convecting right there. So this might be what I don't know. It's something though. That is cold. Negative 92 now.
Mm-hmm.
Every minute these images come in, so we're able to give you the latest info.
Yeah, I'm still not getting signs of that recon mission going back towards the center just yet. It still hasn't updated on here, but it still shows that it's going away, but still says it's in the storm. So it might be either finishing soon or going back in? Because I'm seeing only 11 drop zones have been dropped so far.
3 on this mission. I'm looking at the Air Force 301 mission.
Yeah, so am I. I see 11 on in total of all time from their mission. There was well, actually 10. There wasn't the number one. Second one was in the northeast quadrant. Then they kind of went into each quadrant. They got about 3 of them in the middle. You're only seeing the central pressure drop zones, correct?
Well, I'm only seeing 3 because 1, 2, 3. Yes. The
Okay,
center.
yeah, it's only showing you central pressure drop zones.
Yeah, this plane is going to make a turn back in. I think they're seeing that the low level center might have relocated. It could have relocated further southeast just a little bit. It could have relocated a little southeast. And if I do my math correctly, no, that wouldn't make sense. I don't know why they're that far out. I hope they didn't finish. I really hope they didn't. But maybe this is moving really erratically. Maybe it's over here or something.
Oh, no, it's going back in. It's going back in. It just updated.
Good. Yep. They made the
They're
turn.
going back.
They're making the turn that I thought. So they're yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So on this bearing, so they might have noted that the system might have relocated again. My goodness, this system.
It would make sense. It would make sense.
How do they know that it has moved that much? That is incredible.
They're probably getting data from the National Hurricane Center telling them that that's happening, because they can send data, but they can probably also receive data.
Yeah. Dang.
That would be the only logical explanation.
Cloud tops on this are negative 93 degrees Celsius. They're still cooling.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like the CDO is now moving west-northwest. Certainly, the centroid of the convection is moving to the west, actually. That's, I think, why they're making that turn a little further west, to capture that, to see if that's where the center actually is now.
Would make sense.
Honestly, I've never seen a storm reform this much. Yeah, there might be mesoscale relocations, more not as dramatic as what we saw last night and today, but relocation's a little, just a touch further to the southeast. So like maybe 20 miles southeast of where the other center was.
If it moves 20 miles southeast, that's going to be basically right over the mid-level circulation, because they were only like 25 miles apart based off what the NHC had noted.
And also what the TDR mission noted as well. So, yeah, it's good. This leg right here is going to be very important, though. If we start seeing a lot of lime green, that means this part of the circulation has strengthened out of the northeasterly direction. Means the vortex is becoming a little bit more better established. And then on the northeastern side, we'll see with what they find, but I don't think it's going to be much stronger. But the last time they did this, though, this sector was a while ago, like 2 hours ago. So
I think it will be quite a bit stronger.
Yeah.
I mean, considering the fact that you remember how Hurricane Eric, like mentioned earlier, it went from 125 miles an hour to 145 after that had that big massive CDO off to the southwest of the storm. I think that could really strengthen the storm a little bit in that area, so it could now have tropical storm force winds extending about as far out as the rest of the quadrants are.
Makes sense. Wow. Wow. Oh my goodness. I'm seeing this right. That is a big shock wave coming out of the system. Look at, like, I'm drawing it up. I don't know if you guys can see that, but look at the distinction right here. Maybe a little bit of a shock wave, or a gravity wave coming out from the center here. Man, convection is that intense on this system. That is incredible. Yeah, I cannot argue enough just how quick this thing could recover. Category
I think
5.
it's already covered.
Category 5 in the making now. No, we're not saying that. It's not even a category 5. It's not even D-max yet. Well, it is D-max, right? D-max happens at night, so it is approaching D-max. I don't want to over-exaggerate, but you can definitely tell here there is this gravity wave radiating out from the system on this plot, but it's not really showing up. Oh, it is. Yeah, there it is. Okay. There's our gravity wave right in here coming out in the upper parts.
Yeah.
So that means the convection is so intense. Oh yeah, look at that. Look what it does here. Air actually sinks out ahead of it. That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can even see it on the cyclone site at the overview satellite imagery. Just before you actually see it, you can see the rippling of gravity waves midway through on this frame.
You know what? I think an inner core is beginning to form. I am not lying. I
think it's already begun to.
I mean, if you keep an eye, let me play this through and look at the last 200 frames on this. Again, I don't like over exaggerating stuff, but I'm not trained into looking at satellite images, but I've looked at this long enough to see what I'm looking for. Look at this now we have to get new frames that are loading in here. Hold on, give it some time. By the way, cloud tops are negative 93 Celsius, so they have cooled even further.
I'm seeing negative 92.
92.6, which rounds up to 93.
Oh, I have 92.09.
Interesting. Well, it maybe has an update on my end. But if you look at this closely, follow the last few frames. Just watch this deep convection here, folks. You can already start seeing some rotation in the mid-level starting to appear. Even some upper-level rotation that it shows. I don't know if maybe I'm seeing things. I'm not hallucinating.
No, you're not.
If you look closely, it was more kind of straight out, and now there is a little bit of rotation right there, just to the southwest of that very intense VHW. Vertical hot tower.
Yeah, David. In the middle of this storm, there's some clouds that are starting to lower, so I think it might be trying to clear out something.
Oh no!
And
no,
right now,
no, it's not. It's not. There's no way there's an eye forming on this right now. It's too early in the cycle. There's
well,
no
I wouldn't
eye.
say like an eye, but there's definitely something going on in between those two towers of negative 90 degree plus or minus, excuse me, of convection. But right around those, the cloud tops are actually starting to. It looks like they're decreasing a little bit. So
Okay,
maybe it's possible because it does look very symmetrical at this point.
Yeah, I know what you're noting is the warming on the T center though, but the thing is that could be overshooting tops that could be physically warming the surrounding environment a little bit, giving the illusion that there's an eye forming. I don't see that right now. I don't see that. There's no eye forming just yet. There's no eye forming. Sometimes with IR satellites like this, the overshooting tops are so vigorous and violent that it could actually, when air sinks like that, it warms the cloud tops a little bit, and that's what you're seeing. So I don't think there's no eye on this yet in the infrared channel at this present time.
Yeah, that would actually make more sense given the fact that these storms, given the fact it doesn't have an inner core, I suppose that would make more sense.
But it does look like the system is definitely making a hard turn to the west. It is beginning to make a hard turn to the west. You could already see that we thought, oh, maybe this is going northeast, but it looks like it's making that hard turn to the west right now. Could already tell closer to that low level circulation. So it's not going to be long. It's not going to be long. And I want to get that last recon pass in. Do we have microwave data? I do, but it's from 21 Zulu, which was about 2 o'clock this afternoon, Pacific Daylight Time. So it's not as reliable at the moment. We want to get something more like at about 02 or 03 Zulu. Actually, more like 01 Zulu. But it is, we haven't had anything new come in yet. Yeah, I don't think we did. Let me check that again to make sure. No, we have not. Yeah, the last one we got was 2216 Zulu, which was, let's see, that's 18 is 11. So 18.
That would be like, what,
21.
7 p.m. your time?
So that would be 3 o'clock my time. So it would be
Or 3 o'clock, yeah.
3:16 my time is when the last image came in. And this is what we got. And this is not going to give us the current presentation because this was, of course, about almost 7 hours ago. But there's the core. That's what it looked like at the time. So it's really hard to say exactly what it looks like, but that's why we were able to get some TDR missions in there. This is what they found earlier, and they did find a pretty good wind maximum on the northern side, but there's that tilt with height, but that might be narrowing as we speak. You can see right here. So there is your center at the present center point of all of this. These rings are how far in distance from the center you are. And what we're looking at here is two different centers at two different levels. So this is at the near the surface. And then if we go to this one, this is 6 kilometers. Right here, you can see the
Yeah,
center.
hey David, if I will say there's another update so far. It's not quite into the center of the storm, but it's about to hit the CDO here in probably about another 10 minutes. It'll probably hit that CDO. It still
Okay.
has yet to hit that, but it's got winds of around tropical depression force already.
Okay. Thank you for letting me know. So what we're going to see here is whether these centers have narrowed in distance. If you follow these rings, the center was right in the inner ring here of 50 kilometers. We go to 50 kilometers, so kilometers to miles. Let's go to mile here. So 50 kilometers. Sorry, I do not know metric units very well. This is 31 miles, so about 25-ish, kind of skewing that a little bit. So about 25 miles, center is displaced, but that could have narrowed to like 10 miles or 15 miles. And that little difference makes a huge difference on the more impressive CDO structure that we're seeing. And yeah, there is definitely some rotation now starting to develop here. This very deep blob here is moving actually west, and just south of due west, there is definitely some rotation happening, starting to show up in the mid levels and in the upper levels right here. So if we go back, see how this was more blobbier? Now in the last few frames, it's more kind of, it's semi-swirly, you know, and there's these ripples coming out of the deep convection, which indicate that the system is organizing. And sometimes you could have this, and there's probably even some deep banding in this as well, surrounding that inner core. I would make a bet when the aircraft gets in there, we're going to have stronger winds and probably some lower pressures, at least by a few millibars. Wouldn't surprise me. Oh, it's just a matter of let's get the latest update. Yeah, they're not in the
Not
CDO yet.
updated yet. I'll let you know when they are.
Oh, don't. I want to be surprised on this one.
I'll tell you then you should take a look at it.
Yeah, I'm looking at it live right now. So we're going to get that pass
Hmm.
in very soon.
Yeah. I can only imagine how strong it's going to be, considering the fact that it's rippling. It'll probably be stronger than what's been seen by a little bit all around the storm, considering that they were finding their strongest winds on the outer edges. That probably won't be the case anymore.
Mm-mm. So show Jamaica, someone's telling me. So yeah, let's look at the models really quickly here. I don't think, yeah, nothing has come in yet. No 0Z yet. The 18Z model here of the Halves A, there's Jamaica to the north. I mean, if this is turning west a little sooner than what we thought, this could be a little further offshore of Jamaica, and that would mean the system has a bit more better chance of getting a little stronger than what's currently indicated, just a little bit, which really wouldn't matter a whole lot. But this pressure drops all the way down to 915, 916 millibars. That's very low. And winds that are about 130 to 145 miles an hour as it moves over Jamaica directly. I mean, this is some of these higher elevations. It wouldn't surprise me if we get wind gusts over 180 miles an hour, perhaps. So that is why I am really concerned about this, and we all are here. I'm concerned about this. So we're gonna wait for the next update. So calculating it, they were here. This is 10 minutes, so they should be in the CDO in the next update or in the outer fringes of that, and give us a kind of an early estimate of what they might find in the center. But this is very deep convection, very deep. We will see if
Yeah, I won't be surprised if the center's down to 990 millibars by this point, considering how good it's actually starting to look now and that CDO developing. It's definitely gotten stronger.
Yeah. I'm actually gonna text Tristan. He's an expert in all of this. They're in a different server though.
It'd be good to get their idea. It's good to get multiple perspectives on the storm, but I do think this is stronger than what was present earlier.
Yeah. Dude, I think this is developing another inner core attempt. What are your thoughts? He's very good at this stuff. Very
Yeah.
good. He actually called, he predicted that the NHC would actually go 155 before anyone else did. I'm like, really? Are you sure they're going to go 155? And he actually was correct. He's been really good at tracking this system so far. So that's why I'm asking him about what are your thoughts?
Yeah.
He's like the ultimate expert over here. So I'm texting him right now and going to wait to hear back from him. He's texting me back as we speak. So I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
And the whole point of this has not gained much latitude at all. I'm keeping an eye on that too, is any latitude gain. She is tilted. Wait until tomorrow morning. She will likely be able to stack by then. Are you sure? Look at satellite imagery.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't be surprised that Tristan called that 155 mile an hour winds that far in advance, considering like I mentioned to you yesterday, I saw a really good chance with all the uprushing heat content and the fact that that wind shear's gone or forecasted to decrease, I should say rather. I'm not surprised if this storm actually gets any stronger than that. I will not be surprised, and I've been saying that since the beginning, just because of where this is located and because of what storms have done in this region, I would not be surprised.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that CDO, dude, that's a lot more symmetrical. That is so much more symmetrical right now. That, I
Yeah.
mean, you could literally see it bulging out here on the western side here. This is definitely, I don't, there's something going on in the system that it's doing something that is allowing the system to potentially get a little stronger. And that's why I cannot wait for that recon pass to confirm. Because
Yeah, still waiting on that, at least on my end. But I'm looking at the satellite image so far. This thing almost looks completely circular. Almost, but
there,
it's getting
yeah.
there. Yeah, it's only slightly squished on the southern half. But if you take the CDO around that cold top of the negative 91 degrees, all the
Mm-hmm.
way out to the edge, you got a perfect circle.
Pretty much. Almost, yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
You see what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yep. That's interesting. They're just starting to get into the CDO, but they haven't found any increase in winds yet.
Oh my gosh.
I think they went in a little too far south.
That's what it looks like. Maybe, yeah. You know what though? It is possible that the it's weighted eastern half, so that means an eyewall is forming, but mainly on the eastern side. So they're probably gonna
Hmm.
find the strongest winds there. So that's what I'm gonna be waiting for.
Yeah. I mean, looking at this storm, they just went below 1,000 millibars that far away from the center of the storm. And considering it's exponential, it's definitely getting stronger.
Yeah, it is dropping with each.
Hmm. Yeah,
The
within
extrapolate. Okay,
three.
so the extrapolated pressure earlier was 1,000 millibars. It was this low, so I'm wondering if it's lower than it was when they did their first pass. Because if it is, then we know it's strengthening a little bit potentially, but that's when the drop zone needs to get involved to figure that out.
Mhm.
Okay. What is up with you, advanced over technique? Guess what it's indicating? Irregular CDO.
Oh.
What?
Hmm. What's it saying for the T values and all that now?
2.5.
Oh.
So I don't think this is strengthened, but I don't see how it's not strengthening. I know I don't want this to strengthen. That's for sure. We do not want this
Yeah.
to strengthen, but
Mm-hmm.
with the deep convection that we're seeing, though, I mean, one could really argue if it is strengthening at all or if it's not. See, that's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
it's completely symmetrical as opposed to earlier. There's no
Hmm.
way it isn't. Yeah, it's completely symmetrical.
Oh, wow. So Sheest T says the Caribbean is the hottest ocean in the world right now.
You're kidding.
There's,
That
wow.
can't be right. That cannot be right. Hmm. Actually, I'm looking at it. Yeah. I mean, if you don't count the equatorial West Pacific just north of Indonesia, then yeah, it is. That is that is very warm. I mean, looking at the temperature of the Caribbean right now, I'm seeing 29.6 degrees Celsius on an average standpoint, and that's from the Coral Reef Watch. About the same from the ocean analysis temperatures too, so that's very warm.
Dang. Dang, dang, dang.
Hmm. That's been precisely what's been worrying me with this storm is the fact that the temperatures, even regardless, are this warm like they are. Gets me really worried about this storm.
That's why we're seeing the high cloud tops that are like
Hmm.
very, very cold because that convection is so high because the atmosphere in that area is actually warm. This storm has that look of what the strongest tropical cyclones have looked like. Yeah, I mean,
It does have that symmetrical cold cloud top look to it, but that could also be temporary, as this storm will do an intercore restructure, and then some of the cold cloud tops will probably warm up a bit, and then an eye will form, and then they'll cool back down again.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a lot of gravity waves coming off this, though. There is a lot of rippling.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, Recon, get in there. Let me go to sleep in my bed. By the way, if you all are enjoying the live discussion, the live update here that we're providing here on the channel, and you like what I do, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification icon. Winter is my next subject after this demon out there in the Caribbean. We need to get rid of this monster hurricane, and then all eyes are on the winter season. For me,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I want to make weather maps, but this is, I'm putting everything off just for this tropical system. This is really annoying. So if you like what I do for a living and find it very helpful, enthusiastic, and loving, please share, like, and subscribe. It does help the channel out a lot. Love you guys. I really do. So tomorrow I will be streaming live again. I will not have a video out because I am not going to be home until like about 4 in the afternoon, and it's just going to be a bit too late for a video release. So instead of a video release, we are going to go live tomorrow at around 7 o'clock. And we're going to be looking at maybe even earlier, probably even earlier, depending on how strong the system actually is. And I think we'll go live a lot longer, probably for about 4 or 5 hours, looking at recon, or just do a recon mission stream where just do a recon mission stream.
Yeah, that could be very helpful, and then I can always do what I'm doing these past few streams too, and then because like as you mentioned before too,
Yeah.
and just as Tristan mentioned as well with that CDO and all, it's just definitely good to get even all the experts on this, because I know we're all hands on deck right now, but this could be very traumatic for those around the area. Definitely good to have all of us on deck.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, you guys, had a stuffed up nose there. Thank you so much. I'm glad I rock. Yeah, it's been a really long day. I don't very often do you see me upload 2 videos a day on top of a live stream, on top of a shorts video. Oh man.
That is quite the busy day you got there.
Yeah. And the shorts video was because I saw that gravity wave and that hot tower go up. I'm like, man, that is just fantastic satellite imagery of bubbling, boiling atmosphere. That's basically what it kind of is.
It's bathwater.
Yep. Wow, we have 300 likes too. So thank you guys for slapping, smashing, destroying that like button. So
yeah, I know it's going to take a good minute on that update, because they're about to pass through the center. So that is probably going to take a good 15 minutes, because that center always has that delay to it in order to make sure they have the correct data.
oh yeah. Oh, this was 4:23 Zulu, so it's 4:23. So we should get an update here in about 2 or 3 minutes with the next update from the plane, because they should be able to capture the center in their next pass. So we will be getting that here soon. But you can see so far, this is basically where they started in their mission. They flew this way with the alpha flight pattern. They did this. They went out then around like this, made that turn, and they went like that, came around again, and then they're right over here now, making their, most likely their final pass. I don't think, maybe they'll do one more quadrant. Wait, this is 1, 2, 3, 4. I think they'll do one more quadrant. Or maybe they, oh wait, hold on. Yeah, I think, wait, no, they're flying in on the southeastern, or from the northwest to out to southeast. Oh yeah, then they'll fly this way and then probably exit the mission like that. It's probably how they'll do it. Yeah, I know this stuff so well. I could read the National Hurricane Center's minds. I mean, I almost argue enough if I even work at the National Hurricane Center, which I don't. I'll be honest, I do not. And I don't want to work there because that's a stressful job. But I have all of the data that I have available to me that makes me feel like my office is the National Hurricane Center. Which, by the way, speaking of office, if you have noticed throughout the stream, notice how my room is kind of purple. Why is it purple, you might ask? Well, that's because we're tracking a life-threatening, potentially catastrophic hurricane. So my room is actually in alert mode right now. Actually, if I turn off all of these lights, it will be looking a lot more colorful. Yeah, look how much...
Hey, David,
Yeah.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but they just said that they found a minimum extrapolated pressure of 986.7 millibars.
You're lying to me. You're lying to me,
No.
dude. You are
I wish I was. I wish I was.
No, kidding.
Yeah, 5 minutes ago, they just said the minimum extrapolated pressure was 987 millibars.
Oh my gosh, yes they did. They found it. They actually found it. And look at the maximum winds in that western quadrant. That's pretty strong from the northwesterly direction. That is somewhat of a decaying inner core on the western side because of that shear, but that wind is coming all the way around that. That's a huge increase in wind right in a short distance. So that is the sign of, yeah, this pressure dropped. Man, since their last pass, that pressure had dropped a full 15 millibars. A full 15 millibar drop in pressure. So I am right. That deep convection tower might be getting a little closer to that circulation. It is still tilted with height, but it is getting a little closer. I want to wait to see with what they find on the southeastern quadrant. They're going to loop around. They're trying to find where that center is.
Yeah, we got to see what that center actually says. But that extrapolated pressure, I saw that and I just panicked.
Yeah, the system is very tilted. Well, not really tilted because the lowest pressure is here and getting the estimated, because this is at flight level, maybe 10,000 feet. So this is showing us that tilt is happening. So right here is the lowest pressure. So let's see where you can find this. Okay, so 986 is there. So I would say the low-level center is somewhere back over here. So it's not very far, probably about 10 or 15 nautical miles away from that low-level circulation. Maybe a little more than that because they're finding this at 10,000 feet. Oh, let me actually zoom in. There we go.
In the past few fixes of the every few seconds it does a wind barb, they definitely missed the center because the winds went from about, I want to say that 35 knots to about 20.
Yeah, but the thing is they did get the center because the lowest pressure is the center. What they're getting there is the flight level wind at which what they're flying at. So the tilt is being observed here because the lowest pressure is not being observed with the lightest winds. So the strong, so there's a tilt
Yeah, that's
here.
what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think they got the lowest pressure because of that wind.
No, they did.
The mid-levels as well. That is the lowest?
That is the lowest. They got the center. I can tell you they got the center. The thing is, the mid-level vortex is still tilted with height out to the southeast. So that's the thing with this is They're only getting one layer, which is flight level wind. And so the center, so you can think of it like the center is here. So then it tilts with height like this. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It tilts and tilts with height, and it's not aligned exactly for where the system can intensify, but it's doing pretty good at that right now because the pressure has dropped down to 986, 15 millibar drop in pressure, at least with the extrapolated pressure since the last fix that went through. So that is a huge drop that signifies that the system is not falling apart and it's doing quite well with the vertical wind shear of only 15 knots. And I can see that happening because the circulation now is actually catching up to the low level circulation right now. And there's definitely swirling bands. So I am not surprised that I think we're in the beginning and early stages of the system doing another one of those bout of explosive strengthening or rather quick strengthening trends. But I need to see with what they get on that southeastern quadrant. If they can get like 55 or 60 knot winds, then I can say, Logan, this thing is stronger. It is a lot stronger. And I know that's what they're going to find because the pressure had dropped that fast.
They might find 65 knot, 70 knot pressure in the flight level winds as well because of how far that dropped. Because usually the faster the pressure drops, the more the wind speeds change. And something else to notice, a rule of thumb I've noticed, it takes less pressure when pressure is deep enough to change wind speeds more. So the change in pressure to affect the wind speeds becomes less and less each time as the pressure deepens. But right now, considering it's still so far up and the fact that it just dropped about 15 millibars, that could equate to about 5 miles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then lower, deeper in pressure and close to 800, or excuse me, close to 900 millibars, a millibar could change about a mile.
Yeah. So I want to,
Like it did with Milton.
I'm going to wait to see. I'm hoping, I want to see with what they get on this other leg going out with the wind. Because, man, if the wind picked up that much, then that is,
bad.
That's bad.
Yeah, anyways, you should probably tell them about the rest of what you're trying to tell them before I had to let you know on that pretty urgent update on the drop song, or on the extrapolated pressure. You're saying something about your room lights or something?
Oh, yeah. I'll explain more on that in just a second. But which, by the way, the pressure here, so this is the past recon observations, and you can tell here, okay, the minimum central pressure went up a little bit, and then look at right here. So this is pass 1, pass 2, pass 3, and then pass 4. And in the last 3 passes, the pressure has dropped. So pass 1 had the highest pressure of about 1,000 millibars. That's when I thought, it's like it stopped intensifying. Pass number 2, pass number 2 was a little lower with the pressure, went down to about 993 millibars. Now, recently, the minimum central pressure has really bottomed. It's going down. So I think this trend tells us right now we're beginning the early onset of strengthening with the system. Even so, it's tilted. I understand it's tilted, but I think it's in a position where it can actually intensify a little more faster.
Definitely.
If this
I might even argue. Sorry.
Okay, someone actually also said, if this moves faster, can that change the track? Of course it can. But we're pretty locked in somewhere around Jamaica, either Eastern Jamaica or Western Jamaica. The storm already caused fatalities. I'm not surprised by that because of flooding in.
I'm actually deeply more concerned about that landslide threat more than the flooding.
Oh yeah, the landslide threat is landslides are guaranteed to kill people for sure.
Yeah, I'm actually more concerned about that than the flooding.
Okay, I'm letting Tristan know. I'm actually letting Tristan know right now.
Yeah. It's safe to say that this. I'm curious on what they're going to find in the drops on pressure
Hey,
because that's
Tristan,
what they're going to go
they
with.
found a 983 millibar pressure.
Whoa, 986.7, not 983.
Oh, 986. 986.
Hmm.
Never mind. Man, I get my numbers mixed up. Okay, yeah. I don't know why I said
Yeah,
983.
yeah. Don't get too far ahead of yourself. Don't scare yourself too much now.
Yeah. By the way, though, that is definitely swirling, though. That is. Oh, that CDO. Yes, that CDO.
Oh, oh, yeah. I haven't looked at that in a little bit. That is now completely symmetrical all around the outer flank. Aside from a little bit that's pushed out to the southeast, it's completely symmetrical.
Very much so. You know what, actually?
That
You know what? I can actually understand what you're saying. There is an eye-like future on infrared, but I think that is
Mhm.
due to the fact that the cloud tops, in that there's convection that is so intense. But oh man, if that's an eye-like future, if it's showing up in the, it's not showing up. Yeah, it's not showing up in the visible satellite yet.
Yeah, let's see. They didn't find anything else. Still, they found that area of very low pressure. They went around and now they're going on the southwestern side, but still that I didn't see any drop zones that they've done, but they kind of looped around. They saw 986.8, 988. They saw 987.4. So it's definitely potentially really deep in pressure now.
Oh, they updated. Let's see. They
Yeah,
updated.
I just
Dude,
told you about it.
why are they going out on the northwestern side? Or what are they even doing?
They're going towards the southwest.
Oh, southwest. Sorry. Why am I my C8?
Mhm.
I'm tired. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, 986 seems very it's below 990. Below 990.
hmm Yeah, they're gonna go with 987 though because they're gonna round that up.
Oh, you know what I think they did? So they went to
Mm.
observe that mid-level circulation. I bet you that's what they
Yep.
did.
hmm
So that is not far. That is not
It might
far.
even be. Yeah, it might even be beginning to stack on top of the low level circulation now.
I think that's why we're seeing a sudden jog northwestward, because the circulation
hmm
itself has not moved at all, but that deep convective mass has moved.
Yeah,
At
it's
the
vertically aligning.
at the same time, okay, 16 degrees north. Okay, no, that makes sense. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, it is, man. Yeah, it is very
hmm
close. It is very close of aligning.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I mean, once it gets symmetrical, that's how you know it's gonna be more aligned. The more symmetrical the storm is, the more likely it is to align.
Yeah. Is
The
it a
way this hurricane looks actually reminds me a lot of Milton. Actually, it actually does remind me a lot of Milton, which would be a weird curse, considering that back-to-back M-named storms would be catastrophic, and that we had two major hurricanes back-to-back that were both Category 5s in two back-to-back years like this.
that is in October too?
Oh yeah, and yeah, but this formed at the end of October. However,
Yeah. I
the
did not
crazier
even
curse.
realize that.
Mhm.
Dang.
Don't forget Michael. Michael became Milton after he became retired. Those two storms formed and struck within the same week.
I know that's oh man, what a coincidence. Yeah.
Yeah, M named monster in October.
What letter is worse for storms, M or I? I don't know. I think I is
Honest.
I think I is worse because we had we had Irma, Ian.
We had Iris in 2001. We had
Ike, Ivan.
Ivan. We had there's Irma. There was Igor, 2010. There was, let's see, there Ian. We had, like I said, Irma. What else is there? Adalia, but that wasn't like crazy, but that was just another good one to mention. I think since 2001, there's been 7.
Yeah.
It seems about right.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I can actually find this myself, actually, real quick. And I'll be
Dude,
able to tell you that answer.
also, to change things up a bit here. So the ADT, interesting, guess the minimum central pressure is 987.6. So that 986 that the plane found could be legitimate. So that would be a big drop in pressure. That would be a full 9 millibar drop in pressure in one pass. One pass with a 9 millibar drop in pressure. That is very, very fast rate of intensification.
That might be the fastest I've seen a 9 pressure millibar drop between fixes like that. I don't think I've ever seen a 9 millibar drop between fixes.
I think did it? No, it happened with Milton, right? It dropped like 15 millibars in a fixed pass.
Oh, I wasn't looking at aircraft or Milton because I didn't know about it at the time. So, but that's just my personal experience I've noticed. So it's very much possible.
Yeah. And I
Which would
wanted
make sense.
Yeah, and I wanted to tell you all in chat here that are watching this. Only 13 named storms so far this season, right? People would probably declare, "Oh, David, it's a below average season. It's a below average season." Yeah, I get what you're saying, but we also, we had Aaron. We had a close call with Aaron. Now we're having Melissa. So yes, impacts beat everything, and right now we are
We
we're
broke 100 ACE units.
actually we're at 120. Oh, East Pacific. Never mind. That's the wrong basin.
Yeah, we're at like 101 units of ACE at the moment.
Yeah, and so we are slightly above average, but with this hurricane, this will get us above average. So our ace points this year so far will likely end the season with above average ace points with a below average named storm perspective, all right? So that goes to show you just because it's a below average season does not really mean the season, oh, it's a below average season. We didn't get much impacts. Yeah, you did. We had Melissa, we had oh my gosh.
Hey, David.
Yeah.
You know something that's kind of ominous?
Yeah.
You remember how we were talking about Hurricane Mitch, right?
Yes.
That was at this same time of the year in the same area, got down to 905 millibars. This was the 22nd of October to the 5th of November. Same time of the year.
In the same location too?
Well, the Caribbean, not the same exact location. This was towards the Yucatan, but
Oh,
it
wow.
bonafide southeast of Jamaica. But still, in the Caribbean and Gulf in October, it's just, I don't even know what to say.
Yeah. Yeah, well, here's
But
another, well, this is going to be a Gilbert 2.0 at this point, if,
well, let's see what Recon has said. Anything new? Nothing new yet. But yeah, since 1995, it's 8 because we have Isidore as well. But I'm actually trying to figure out whether M or I is actually more impactful, but so far it's looking like I, but M has been on a recent trend to surpass I.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
Yeah.
let's see the latest. Okay, we didn't get any new data. There's something that tells me that that center is quickly aligning, though. I think it's quickly aligning now. Oh, there's nothing,
Hmm.
no in doubt. There's nothing that doubts me that that center is restacking. It's trying to.
Yeah. You know something else crazy too? I
But
mean, we've had Mitch, Matthew, Maria, Milton, Michael. We're soon to have Melissa do this as well. Within, aside from Mitch, this is all within recent years.
oh yeah,
Maria, Michael, Milton, Matthew. Yeah, and then soon to be Melissa. That would be five times within the past 9 years alone.
dang, that's crazy.
That's actually even worse than I was.
All right, Knight Mike is saying it's undergoing rapid intensification. I'm not declaring that yet. I need to see with what it's getting. I need to get that aircraft day. Okay, they're going out on this end. Okay, they are going out on the southeastern side. Winds are definitely stronger on the southeastern quadrant than earlier, way stronger.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah, they are already at about 40 knots in their second, on their way into the second pass through the system. They had winds in the same
Hmm.
area at around 20 to 30 knots. So the winds have increased on
Hmm.
that quadrant. So the system is strengthening. I think it's
Yeah,
strengthening.
that's 35 knots.
Yeah. Well, 34 knots is
Hmm.
the darkest green on this map that I'm
Oh yeah, or 34. Yeah, but I'm looking at the actual wind barbs that they're showing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Mhm.
actually looking at their wind barbs that's falling behind them. Yeah, it's consistently wavering between 35 and 30 knots. Consistently.
Sure. All righty, folks. I am so sorry to cut it short tonight. Well, not really short. This is a 3-hour stream. Um, Before I do go, if you found this live stream very helpful, with the information that we provide with live analysis on the storm in real time with mesofloater satellite imagery as well as recon data, if you like what you see on this channel, and um you haven't been here before, please subscribe to the channel. Ask yourself, like, man, is this a channel for me to follow real-time weather updates, video discussions on the tropics, the winter storms and stuff like that? Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Slap and smash that like button. Give that like button a huge nudge, as well as please leave a comment in the section below this video. It does help the channel out a lot. Can't believe it. We are at 60,000 subs and we are on our way to 100,000 subs. So anyways, folks, unfortunately, I have work in the morning at 5:30. I will not have a video out in the morning or in the afternoon, but I will be live streaming tomorrow, mid to late afternoon. I will have to see on that, but it will probably be in the late afternoon on this system, probably right around 6 or 7 o'clock to talk about this system. And since I'm not working at all in the morning on Sunday, I'll probably be able to stream for an extra hour or two. So we'll make this a 4-hour stream tomorrow night. As always, I love you guys. I care about you all. And please share, like, and subscribe. And I will see you back here tomorrow In the meantime, please follow me on social media on X at Weather United 1 for more updates on this tropical system as it unfolds. I will be sharing a lot of images and my insights there as well. Love you guys. Talk to you guys tomorrow.